In a sun-drenched courtyard, a cloaked figure asks Lastiara if she is prepared for the ritual. Lastiara turns, her expression serene, assuring her follower that this is a necessary course of action. A glowing orb of pure energy manifests, the final component of the summoning ritual. Akawa Kanami's eyes snap open with a jolt, violently pulled from his world into consciousness. He sits up, disoriented in a vast Gothic hall, clutching his head and wondering where he is. Standing shakily, he scans the immense, shadowed hall, questioning what this place could possibly be. He walks cautiously through the cavernous space, dwarfed by the towering stone archways. Clutching his throbbing head, he recalls his last, mundane memory of visiting his sister in the hospital. A sudden noise makes him freeze, his body becoming a terrified silhouette as he wonders what is happening. He whips around in the darkness, startled by the sound and demanding to know what it was. His eyes widen in absolute horror as a monstrous shape begins to resolve itself from the shadows. A grotesque creature, a colossal centipede wrapped around a pillar, is revealed in the gloom. The creature's horrifying elephant-like heads are shown, weeping a dark fluid from their many eyes. Kanami's eye reflects the pure terror of the impossible sight before him. He lets out a raw scream of terror, scrambling backward away from the nightmarish monster. In his panic, he trips and falls over himself while trying desperately to escape. He continues to back away, gasping for breath, his eyes locked on the silent horror. The creature's many blank white eyes stare down, tracking his every terrified movement. He turns and flees, a small figure running from the immense, multi-eyed abomination. He glances back, his face slick with sweat, his mind racing to understand what is happening. He sprints through the corridors, desperately hoping this is all a dream, despite the realness of it all. A distant human voice cuts through the silence, causing him to stop in his tracks. He runs toward the sound of conflict, seeing a shadowed figure through an archway. His eyes go wide with shock as he emerges from the corridor into an unbelievable scene. A knight battles a flaming monster as a mage warns him against his reckless actions. The mage shouts at her companion, her face a mask of frustration at his mistake. Kanami stares at the fantasy battle, his mind reeling as he questions if this is reality. As a wolf beast attacks, the knight is ordered to reform their battle lines immediately. The ferocious, lupine monster known as the Emerald Fang lunges forward to attack. The beast's powerful blow connects with the knight's shield, the impact shattering the air. The knight follow is thrown through the air, crashing down right next to the stunned Kanami. Grunting in pain, the armored warrior struggles to push himself up from the ground. He finally notices Kanami and aggressively demands to know who the strange boy is. Kanami, terrified and helpless on the floor, reaches out a hand and begs for help. The knight's party members look on, surprised by the sudden appearance of the newcomer. Follow's face twists into a furious sneer, calling Kanami a fool for asking for help here. A close-up shows the knight's eye, burning with contempt for the boy's apparent weakness. He explains this is a labyrinth and worse, an unmanaged area where the weak die. A new figure with light hair appears on a ledge above, a cruel smirk on his face. The newcomer's eye gleams with malice as he watches the chaotic battle unfold below. He throws a small object, which streaks through the air and strikes the knight. The knight roars that there are other solo players nearby and orders his party to fall back. Follow glares up at the newcomer, enraged, and screams at him for interfering. Kanami looks on, completely lost and bewildered by the rapidly escalating situation. The knight yells at the smirking boy not to mess with them, but his plea is ignored. Kanami's mind is flooded with panicked thoughts, fearing he will be killed in the crossfire. A system message appears, announcing a skill has run rampant, stabilizing his spirit. The world fades back into view from a blinding white light, finding Kanami on his knees. He looks up, confused and disoriented from the bizarre internal message he just received. Clutching his fist, he tries to process what that strange, calming sensation was. The Emerald Fang, ignoring the adventurer's squabbles, charges forward once more. Kanami grits his teeth, knowing he has no choice but to run from the beast's path. The mage shouts to her companions, telling them to hold their current position. She screams for them to strike, weaving a spell to clear a path through the chaos. A brilliant, violent explosion of magic slams into the charging wolf beast. Kanami stares in awe at the raw power, realizing he has just witnessed real magic. The Emerald Fang reels back, stunned and smoking from the force of the magical blast. The impossible truth finally sinks in for Kanami. He is truly in another world. His eyes burn with resolve as he desperately searches for something he can do to help. A game-like interface materializes over the monster, identifying it as Emerald Fang, Rank 7. Konami stares dumbfounded at the sudden display of the creature's name and rank. In a wave of adrenaline and terror, he realizes this world operates like a game. If this world has rules, he reasons, then he must have them too, and wills his own status to appear. A status screen materializes showing his name, critically low HP, and a skill, ice magic. He clenches his fist, realizing he possesses a power he can use to fight back. He focuses his will on the ice magic skill, knowing this is his only chance. A sharp crystalline shard of ice materializes out of thin air before his hand. The other adventurers look on in shock at the unexpected display of magic from the newcomer. He thrusts his hand forward, a faint blue light swirling as he shouts the word ice. His clumsy ice projectile misses its mark as the swift beast easily dodges aside. The smug adventurer who attacked the knight lies on the ground, panting with exhaustion. The Emerald Fang closes the distance in an instant, its fanged maw open for the kill. A massive clawed paw smashes into Konami with brutal, overwhelming force. Konami's face contorts in pain and shock as the monster's powerful blow connects. He is sent flying helplessly across the stone floor, tossed aside like a broken doll. With a desperate expression, he tries to cast one last spell, freeze, as he falls. He lies defeated and broken on the ground, his first attempt at fighting a miserable failure. The mage girl pants, exhausted, the brutal battle having taken its toll on everyone. Lying on the floor, Konami's fading vision catches another skill on his status screen, dimension magic. He wonders what this new magic is and what could possibly happen if he uses it. As the Emerald Fang snarls over him, his last thought is of what will happen if he fails. A memory of his sister Hiyuki gently telling him he's such a warrior flashes through his mind. Lying on the floor, he thinks of Hiyuki, realizing with horror that she is now all alone. The thought becomes a burning resolve. He is the only one she has to protect her. His eyes snap open, no longer filled with fear, but with a blazing, desperate purpose. He thrusts his hand forward, unleashing his power with a primal scream. Dimension magic. Reality fractures around them, trapping the charging Emerald Fang in a cage of blue energy lines. His perception explodes. He can now see the wolf's every movement with impossible clarity. He sees it all, the blind spots, the paths of death, every detail of the battlefield. The beast closes the final distance, its lunge now appearing to move in slow motion. The mage shouts in alarm, seeing the beast about to deliver the final blow. The Emerald Fang's massive claws tear through the air, where Konami's head was a moment before. The beast roars in frustration, its fangs bared as its attack meets only empty air. Its claws slam into the stone floor, gouging deep furrows where its target used to be. A blur of motion shows Konami sliding through a wrinkle in space itself. He reappears behind the beast, having impossibly teleported just past its deadly attack. He collapses to his knees, gasping for breath, the immense power having drained him completely. The confused and enraged monster crashes into the ground, its attack utterly thwarted. Its claws shatter the stone floor in a display of frustrated, wasted power. Konami sits on the floor, victorious but exhausted, the knight's forgotten sword lying nearby. Gasping for breath, Konami reels from the intensity of the fight. A crystal drop lies before him, a surreal, game-like trophy. The oppressive darkness of the labyrinth stretches endlessly before him. Alone in the vast cavern, he questions the nature of this world. With magic and monsters now his reality, he accepts his fate. But the desperate question of how to return home consumes him. His status screen confirms his grim situation, his life hanging by a thread. He finally reaches the forest, relieved but knowing he understands nothing. A memory of his sister Hiyuki's smiling face flashes through his mind. He tells himself not to dwell on it, to focus on the present. The knight's harsh warning echoes in his mind. This is a labyrinth. With grim determination, his first priority is finding a safe place. He takes stock of his inventory, a strange mix of two different worlds. He recalls a strange feeling of accepting this world's game-like rules. It is an unnerving but necessary mindset if he wants to survive. He knows he must be prepared for whatever comes next. Thinking in game terms is convenient, but he finds it deeply creepy. He steels himself for the unknown dangers of the forest. Looking up at the sky, he lets out a quiet sigh of resolve. With a determined expression, he prepares to test his unique abilities. He unleashes his dimension magic, a gridded sphere expanding around him. The magic acts as a sonar, detecting movement in the dense woods. His senses reveal a deer-like creature. Unlike the wolf he fought before, he realizes this power is invaluable. He can even see its path. Suddenly, his senses pick up another presence, something different. He moves cautiously through the undergrowth to investigate the new signal. He finds a white-haired boy in trouble and wonders what's happening. Using his display ability, he sees the boy is fatally poisoned. The boy panics, realizing he was poisoned without even noticing. The sight of someone dying alone triggers a powerful, painful memory. He remembers visiting his sister Hiyuki at the hospital back home. She greets him warmly from her bed, calling him Big Brother. He presents her with flowers, promising to visit her every single day. She is flustered by his intense promise, wondering if he is serious. He smiles gently, vowing that they will always be together from now on. She laments that he can't play his favorite games while she's sick. She looks at him sadly, saying that she only has him. He vows with fierce determination that he will absolutely protect her. He takes her hand as she asks if he'll protect her forever. He reaffirms his promise with a soft, heartfelt yes. The memory fuels him with a desperate resolve. He cannot let anyone die. He grits his teeth, his determination hardening into immediate action. He prepares to cast his dimension magic, ready to intervene. He must help, to avoid a fate like the one he witnessed before. He glances at his rapidly depleting MP, knowing the risk he's taking. In the distance, a brutish adventurer notes they are in an unmanaged area. He's surprised to find a well-maintained path in such a dangerous place. A high-angle view reveals 3 separate parties moving through the forest. The brutish adventurers party discusses their mission with cruel anticipation. The leader muses that their job would be easier if the target was female. Elsewhere, a more professional party, led by a blonde youth, tracks their quarry. The blonde leader decides to call out to the other group nearby. He focuses on the location of the other party, where Konami is hiding. His party members remark on the strange presence they are sensing. Konami, watching from the trees, hopes to avoid any trouble. He tries to hold his breath and pass by the group unnoticed, but he clenches his jaw, knowing he has already been spotted. A voice from the other party calls out, demanding he show himself. The blonde leader watches intently as Konami is forced from his hiding spot. His hand rests cautiously on the hilt of his sword, ready for a fight. Konami emerges from the trees, pleading with them to wait. He explains he was just resting because he was utterly exhausted. The leader scoffs, saying he should have rested on the main road. A female member of the party looks on with concern at his state. Konami is confused by the term main road, feeling even more lost. He raises his hands, assuring them that he means no harm. The leader notes that he doesn't seem to be lying in ambush. The girl with glasses asks if he got lost in the labyrinth. The masked woman chides him for frightening children with his appearance. Konami is simply relieved that they don't seem immediately hostile. He tries to explain himself, still weak from his earlier fight. Suddenly, Lastiara appears behind him, declaring him to be interesting. She leans in close, her long white hair obscuring the view. Her delicate fingers gently touch the scarf wrapped around his neck. From a distance, her silhouette is seen getting closer to his. Konami's eye widens in shock and confusion at her sudden proximity. He stumbles back, startled by her intense and invasive curiosity. She collapses into him, triggering his mysterious chaos skill once more. He can only stare in utter bewilderment at the unconscious girl. Her retainers rush forward, panicked, telling her to avoid other explorers. The masked woman complains that this always happens when Lastiara gets curious. The girl with glasses wonders what just happened to make her faint. The blonde leader asks Konami if he saw something with that eye. Konami is startled by the pointed question, unsure how to answer. Lastiara, recovering, confirms with a soft smile that she did. The leader muses on what fascinating skill Konami must possess. Lastiara claims he is just suffering from a status ailment and low stamina. She theatrically declares that she will perform a great act of charity. Konami watches her over-the-top performance with a deadpan expression. She begins a dramatic chant, her hands glowing with healing energy. A gentle light envelops him as she casts the spell, Cureful. She smiles, announcing that the healing is now complete. He is stunned by the potent magic, the pain completely gone. She suddenly leans in close, her intense gaze startling him. She lets out a curious hum, studying him with unnerving focus. The girl with glasses notes that his chaos status is not normal. Konami sweats, realizing she can somehow see his hidden status. A close-up of his screen shows his chaos has risen to 2.03. Lastiara realizes with delight that he can display this hidden information. She dismisses her retainer's concerns, saying she knows what she's doing. Lastiara leans in close, whispering a promising farewell to Aikawa Konami. She tells the boy sitting below to remember her name, Lastiara. With a cheerful smile, she declares that helping people feels wonderful. Her party departs, the leader urging them on as time is short. She offers a quiet, sincere word of thanks for the opportunity. A soft, enigmatic smile plays on her lips as she departs. She reassures herself that for now, everything is perfectly fine. But her knowing gaze hints at a future encounter, someday soon. She vows he will return the favor, leaving Konami to ponder this. The blonde leader offers a final, friendly warning for him to be careful. Alone in the forest, Konami watches the mysterious group disappear. He gets to his feet, relieved they were kind, decent people. Lastiara, however, knows she cannot afford to let her guard down. He glances back, still thinking of the strange adventurers he just met. He finds a paved road, a path leading towards civilization. The white-haired boy he saved sits safely on a wall overlooking a town. His party of armored adventurers waits nearby, watching over him. The boy's eyes shines with joy. He is thrilled to have survived. He pumps his fist, shouting victoriously that he made it out alive. A stern knight chides him for being overly dramatic about his survival. Konami approaches the group, and the boy offers his heartfelt thanks. Konami admits that he too had a very difficult time. The boy agrees, noting that Konami looks completely battered and worn out. The knight points him toward a nearby waterway where he can rest. Thanking them, Konami runs off as the knight mutters about his duty. He runs, relieved that conversations are easier within a managed area. A genuine, happy smile finally breaks across his exhausted face. His feet pound against the stone path, carrying him toward sanctuary. But he suddenly stops, a sense of dread washing over him. A massive blighted tree looms ominously, suggesting his trials are not over. His journey has just begun, aiming for the labyrinth's deepest floor. On the town's outskirts, he finds an old rusty water pump. With effort, he pumps cool water, washing the grime from his face. Exhausted, Konami felt foolish for naively hoping for modern plumbing in this new world. He stared at the old-fashioned water pump, realizing things wouldn't be that convenient. With a frustrated grunt, he threw his weight against the rusty, creaking iron handle. Finally, cool water gushed forth, and he splashed it on his face in relief. His moment of peace was shattered by a colossal, blackened tree looming over the horizon. A grim resolve settled in. He had to understand this strange, blighted world. Stepping into the town of Fuzuyasu, he could only stare, utterly speechless. The streets were a chaotic, vibrant fantasy scene, filled with adventurers and demi-humans. Wolfmen, elves, and other fantastical beings filled his vision with overwhelming, impossible detail. He watched a lizard man and a fox girl, feeling like a ghost in their world. Clutching his head, he finally accepted the undeniable truth. This was another world. Even the intricately paved streets felt alien, unlike anything from his home. An orc-like man and a horned girl passed by, further cementing his displacement. He walked on through the impossible crowd, determined to find some kind of answer. He found a stone monument, a town directory that offered a glimmer of hope. The map showed his current location in Fuzuyasu, a small beacon of clarity. Despair crashed over him as he realized he couldn't read a single written word. The cheerful chatter of the crowd became an overwhelming, indecipherable roar of noise. He panicked, wondering why the spoken language translated, but the written text did not. The silhouettes of the crowd seemed to mock him with their incomprehensible gossip. Their unheard words felt like a physical assault, compounding his crushing sense of isolation. A system message flashed in his mind as his mysterious skill activated once more. The world came back into focus, the familiar cold numbness washing over him. Again, he thought, his face a mask of weary resignation as the skill took hold. He desperately wondered what this strange, mind-altering power could possibly be. He recalled the labyrinth's terror, realizing this skill might have saved his life. But a deep sense of unease remained. This power was a dangerous, unknown crutch. His status screen confirmed his fears, showing his chaos level had risen to 3.0. His expression hardened as he forced himself to accept his new cold state of mind. The overwhelming noise of the crowd faded to a dull, manageable hum. He had no choice, he realized, but to rely on this strange, borrowed strength. He decided to use this unnatural calmness, vowing that he absolutely had to act. Composed, he found a townsperson and asked for directions to the library. With his emotions suppressed, Konami began his research in the city's vast library. He pored over ancient maps and texts, piecing together the fundamental rules of this world. Hours bled into days as he consumed volume after volume, desperate for any answers. Finally, after exhaustive study, a crucial piece of the grand puzzle clicked into place. He learned this nation, Fuzuyasu, existed for the sole purpose of conquering the labyrinth. It was a kingdom founded by a great knight, where the code of chivalry reigned. He recalled the noble adventurers he had met, confirming the nation's proud character. Fuzuyasu was not alone, but part of a five-nation union aimed at the same conquest. These five great nations formed a ring, their combined power focused on the central dungeon. Their shared religion spoke of a great trial, promising a reward for reaching the final floor. The ultimate prize for conquering the labyrinth was the granting of any single wish. He sat in stunned silence, the profound implications of this discovery washing over him. The overwhelming realization of a clear path home struck him with its full force. It was a simple condition. To go home, he had to conquer all 100 floors. But the terrifying memory of the labyrinth's monsters sent a chill of dread through him. He knew his unique skills were an unlisted advantage he would have to keep secret. Pushing aside grand strategy, he focused on his most immediate and desperate problem. He had to secure funds, starting with 20 copper coins for his monster loot. The shopkeeper asked for identification, but thankfully a thumbprint would suffice for him. The man grew suspicious, wondering if this boy was a foreigner venturing in unprepared. The shopkeeper noted his haul was impressive for a first-timer, though mostly junk. Thinking fast, he named a distant country from the maps, thankful for his recent studies. The shopkeeper was shocked, exclaiming that the nation of Fanya was far away. Konami panicked, worried the man knew more about the country than he did. The man laughed, admitting he only knew of the country's location on a map. Before exposing his lie, Konami quickly asked for a recommendation for a place to stay. The shopkeeper considered, noting that the inns in Fuzuyasu were prohibitively expensive. He then burst out laughing, declaring there was no such thing as cheap lodging here. The city was safe, but its high cost made adventuring impossible for the poor. Konami grimly understood that a nation of nobles was no place for a commoner. It was a land of casual wealth where having no money meant having no future. The man suggested the neighboring town of Walt, a rougher place where he could afford a room. Konami steeled his resolve, determined to find shelter and avoid any unnecessary trouble. Konami stands on a stone street, realizing the glowing patterns are magic stone lines. Konami studies the magic stones, wondering if he can sense their true nature. He sighs, realizing the long, difficult road that lies ahead of him. He asks the shopkeeper to see more, who cheerfully agrees to show him. Later, he arrives at a cheap, rustic inn for the night. The common room is lively, filled with adventurers of many different races. The exhaustion of the day finally crashes down on him. He is relieved his earnings afford him a room and a meal. Despite this small comfort, a profound sense of unease lingers. Sitting alone, he feels a stark, alienating difference from his own world. He stares down at a bowl of bland, watery stew. The simple, tasteless meal is utterly unsatisfying. He sits apart, a quiet ghost amidst the tavern's boisterous crowd. He watches the other adventurers laugh and share stories with their friends. A look of dawning horror fills his eye. He questions the grim reality of what he has been doing to survive. He recalls the terror of waking up in the labyrinth, bloody and near death. He is sickened by the memory of looting and selling monster remains. What the hell is this world, he thinks in despair. Other patrons notice his pale face, guessing he had a rough time. An older adventurer begins to offer some well-meaning advice about the labyrinth. Ignoring them completely, Konami storms away from the table. He mutters for them to be quiet as he stomps up the stairs. The question of what this cruel world is echoes in his mind. His thoughts race to his sister, Hayuki, fueling his desperate need to escape. The game-like system of this world fills him with a deep, primal fear. He punches the wall, screaming for the world to stop messing with him. His unknown chaos skill activates, forcibly stabilizing his spiraling emotions. A quiet, empty sound escapes him as the artificial calm takes hold. Numbed and exhausted, he resolves to simply do what must be done. He collapses face first onto the bed in his small room. The weight of his trauma and exhaustion is a crushing physical presence. He rolls over, his only thought being that if he dies, it's all for nothing. His weary eyes catch a strange, shadowy movement at his window. With a deafening crash, the window explodes as Lastiara roars for him to awaken. She lands on all fours, excitedly announcing that she has brought something wonderful. The violent intrusion of glass and shadow leaves Konami utterly shocked and confused. Her wide, manic grin is fixed upon him, identifying him as this child. She perches on his bed, visibly disappointed that he isn't more properly flustered. A strange beak-masked figure, one of her retainers, peeks into the ruined room. He wearily asks what she wants. She replies that she was worried about him. She strikes a playful pose, insisting that she simply couldn't help but visit. He looks up startled as she explains her curiosity about his lack of leveling. Leaning close, she correctly deduces his ability to see levels, a skill of the lucky. She reveals her status as a predecessor, asking what he truly knows of this world. He turns his back on her, his expression unreadable as he processes her words. A close-up on her eye reveals a flicker of surprise at his cold reaction. She becomes flustered, insisting her intentions were misunderstood and that it's dangerous to be careless. He thanks her for the information but claims ignorance, attempting to end the conversation. She panics, insisting her goal isn't to drive him away with her questions. She pleads that she came to help with his experience, but he coldly dismisses her. With a chilling glare, he bluntly tells her to leave, shocking her into silence. He sits on the bed, his back to her, questioning her motives and presence. Her playful demeanor vanishes, her expression darkening as she considers her next move. Her manic grin returns as she declares she will now have to be forceful. He grits his teeth, his expression hardening as he prepares for her sudden attack. He fluidly dodges her shadowy assault, surprising her with his impossible speed and agility. He moves with incredible speed, frustrated by the constant stream of new threats. Her eyes widen in shock as he effortlessly slips past her guard in an instant. He slams the door, magically sealing it so no sound or person can escape. She is stunned, realizing his strength and agility are less than a tenth of hers. She muses that this must be a power that cannot be measured by mere numbers. Her instincts scream as she senses him preparing to make his decisive move. He brandishes a knife, warning her not to move closer, or he will kill her. His low, predatory stance fills a small room with a palpable, deadly intent. A slow, delighted smile spreads across her face, thrilled by his show of force. She dismisses his threat, calmly stating that true killers do not announce their intentions. Lastiara muses that Konami is interesting, but he grits his teeth, readying himself. Deciding that talk is useless, he lunges forward to subdue her. He moves with surprising speed, his cloak fanning out dramatically behind him. He successfully grabs her by the arm, expecting to gain immediate control. He believes his plan to pin her down is working exactly as intended. His strategy is simple: overpower the girl, then make a quick escape. Lastiara, however, seems to mock his simple intention to just run away. With shocking strength, she effortlessly flips him high into the air. He is sent crashing down hard onto the splintering wooden floorboards. Dazed and utterly defeated, he can only groan as she calmly stands over him. She casually sits on his chest, looking for a level-up incantation in a book. She insists she means no harm. She is only forcing him to level up. His low level is a liability, and she needs her important candidate to survive. She recites a powerful ancient chant, her magic enveloping his still form. With a cheerful declaration, she finishes the spell by placing a hand on his head. She announces her departure, mentioning that some frightening people are hunting for her. From the shattered window, she muses that her unconscious target can't hear her anyway. His status screen confirms the results of her brutal lesson. He is now level 4. He awakens to his new power, but paid for it with a night on the floor. He grimaces, dreading the inevitable and exorbitant bill for the damages to his room. The scene shifts to a new town, marked by a strange banner on a lamppost. This is Walt, a rougher, more pragmatic town within the Labyrinth Union. A spiky-haired adventurer named Clow casually enters a local supply shop. He dumps a heavy pouch of glowing magic stones onto the shop's counter. The shopkeeper is impressed, remarking on the impressive size of Clow's haul. Clow boasts with a grin that this kind of success is just another normal day. His business done, he decides to get a drink and asks about the new tavern hire. The new employee, a hooded figure, is rumored to have labyrinth experience. Apparently, this new worker had a horrible, traumatic time on the very first floor. Clow taps his chin, trying his best to recall the mysterious newcomer's name. He loudly and incorrectly guesses the name might be Siegfried Nonter. A waitress notes that Clow is back, surprised the new hire hasn't quit yet. It is revealed the clumsy new waiter is Konami, working hard during his trial period. Konami's face contorts in panic as dishes fly, his job's trial period flashing before his eyes. A boisterous adventurer, Clow, tells the new hire to take out the trash. Konami recalls fleeing the inn at dawn after his strange encounter with Lastiara. He had to pay for the damages, leaving him completely out of money. He arrived in the town of Walt with no funds to pursue his return. He accepted that this was another world, and he had to survive. A help-wanted sign became his only hope in a world ruled by money. Clow jokes with a friend about the tavern hiring such a clumsy new guy. Suddenly, Clow flinches as an angry coworker shouts his name from across the room. The fiery waitress, Rin, rushes past, telling him to stop slacking off. Startled, Clow bumps into Konami, sending a stack of dishes flying into the air. Clow watches in horror, realizing his careless mistake is about to cause a disaster. In the split second before the crash, Konami's eyes narrow with intense focus. He activates his dimension magic, the chaotic scene freezing into a wireframe grid. He moves with impossible speed, darting through the crowd to catch the falling plates. He thinks to himself that he can still do more, his hands a blur. The final piece of cutlery is snatched from the air just before it hits the floor. He lands in a perfect crouch, the entire stack of dishes safely in his arms. He breathes a quiet sigh of relief, a single bead of sweat on his brow. The patrons, stunned into silence, erupt in a massive, deafening round of applause. They think it was a performance, demanding to see the amazing circus trick again. From a dark corner, a hooded Lastiara clenches her fist in silent approval. An adventurer tells Clow he's no match for his brother, as Konami thanks him. The crowd continues to cheer wildly, amazed by the incredible display of skill. Konami smiles, realizing he successfully spread his dimension magic through the whole tavern. He reflects on his recent experiments, learning to control his magic's range and cost. He also discovered another crucial ability, gathering information within his sensory field. Focusing his gaze, he scans the room, seeing the names and levels of everyone present. He realizes he can view a target's detailed status, just as he did with the monster. He examines Clow's stats, seeing he is a level 13 swordsman with various skills. He now understands that everyone in this world is governed and defined by their status. He had already learned the hard way about the importance of status from Lastiara. Standing with the dishes, he accepts that he finally understands this world's fundamental rule. With these skills, he sees a clear path to conquer the labyrinth and return home. But the thought of grinding through this game-like reality fills him with absolute disgust. He feels a wave of terror, wanting to distance himself from this cold realization. He knows staying here will drive him mad. He must return for his sister's sake. For now, he resolves to focus on his immediate goal, gathering information. The tavern is the perfect place to learn about the labyrinth and find allies. He knows he can find people here who will help him conquer the dungeon. He is snapped out of his thoughts by Rin's sharp, commanding voice. Rin scolds the loitering adventurers, telling them not to be lazy bums. Konami watches the town slowly quiet down as the last of the patrons leave. The tavern owner, Rain, approaches him to talk about his first day on the job. Rin and Rain agree that he handled the rush of customers surprisingly well. Konami worries he was too reckless, but Rain tells him to come back tomorrow. His eyes widen slightly, surprised and relieved to have been officially hired. Ryan remarks that his judgment was correct since he hadn't taught Sieg anything. With no reason to refuse, Ryan declares that he has passed the trial period. Konami bows his head respectfully, quietly thanking his new boss for the job. Rin congratulates Sieg, correctly guessing that he must have needed the money. He sheepishly admits that he was indeed having trouble affording food. Rin is surprised, noting that his homeland must be very different and far away. He tells her he is from Fanya, a lie she accepts without question. He thinks about the backstory he invented, about seeking his fortune in the labyrinth. Rin sympathizes with his past hardships, but is glad he now has a job. With a bright smile, she offers to support him, saying he's better than the last guy. He promises to work hard as she asks him to help with closing the shop. Rain gives him a final piece of advice for the night. Always look people in the eye. Rin explains that the glowing lines in the street are mana lines for security. These wards are placed at the town's entrances to prevent crime, she says. The mention of mana lines gives Konami a sudden, brilliant idea. He wonders if his dimension magic can detect who might be lurking outside. He turns his head slightly, deciding to put his new theory to the test. He casts multi-layered dimension, sending out an invisible sensory pulse. He is surprised to detect a lone figure huddled in the alley just outside. He wonders if the person he sensed could be a girl. He quietly slips out the back door to investigate the mysterious presence. He finds the hooded figure and softly asks if they are still awake. The figure stirs, startled, revealing the face of a young girl with light hair. He tells her the tavern is now closed, noting she seems to be his age. He thinks to himself that it's strange and not a good idea for her to be here. She dismisses his concern, saying it would be more troublesome if she imposed. He insists that it's dangerous for a girl to be out alone so late. She explains she has no money and is just trying to stay warm by the tavern. Her simple, honest reason for being there leaves him momentarily speechless. He decides to leave her be and turns to go back inside to lock up. He pauses at the door, hesitating for a moment with another thought. The girl insists she isn't a child and tells him not to worry about her. He stands at the threshold, conflicted about what he should do. He wonders why she is so adamant that she isn't a girl. He decides it's pointless to dwell on it and prepares to go inside. On a final whim, he decides he should at least check her status. His eyes go wide as he sees her name, Diaprosis, level 1. with a list of incredible skills. The paradoxical information leaves him utterly baffled and questioning what he's seeing. He realizes that in this world, she could eventually surpass any adventurer. He thinks that with her power, she could be useful for conquering the labyrinth. He reaches for the door, his mind made up to get involved with her. But he pulls his hand back, reconsidering his impulsive decision to interfere. He decides against it for now, thinking it would be a hassle to approach her. He'll wait for another chance. A level 1 like her won't draw much attention. The next day, however, trouble finds her under the light of a full moon. He sees a group of brutish adventurers aggressively cornering the girl, Dia. One of the men shoves her aside, yelling that she's useless and in the way. The adventurers mock her, questioning what good a level 1 kid could possibly be. From his post, Konami sees the argument escalating into a full-blown fight. He grits his teeth, realizing the confrontation is drawing far too much attention. Dia stands her ground, defiantly declaring that she has confidence in her sword arm. A female mage in the group scoffs, saying her magic is probably useless too. The mage adds that it's impossible for someone her age to still be level 1. She dismisses Dia as a problem child who can't even handle basic chores. A boorish adventurer loudly mocks the idea of a level 1 in the tavern. Konami overhears the insults, while a dejected Dia listens to the laughter. The man cruelly assumes she must have fled the labyrinth in disgrace. Pushed too far, Dia explodes in anger, screaming at the adventurer to shut up. Her outburst causes a commotion as the situation quickly devolves into a fight. Another adventurer calmly observes the chaos, noting it's a good, if unplanned, opportunity. He mutters to his companion that they should use this to their advantage. A third party tries to de-escalate, telling the brawlers to go home. The bully grabs a woman, complaining this kid doesn't meet their standards anyway. A scarred man and his massive, shadowy companion observe the scene with quiet interest. One of the interveners holds Dia back, telling her to calm her temper. The bully, surprised by the sudden intervention, points at the new arrivals. The scarred adventurer tells the bully that not everyone is suited for their party. Dia storms out of the tavern, deciding she has other things to think about. Later, under the pale moonlight, a lone figure sits hunched over in a dark alley. It is Dia, clutching her stomach in misery, whispering that she is hungry. Konami finds her, asking if she's the one from the tavern with no money. He offers her a bundle of leftover food, which she accepts with wide-eyed shock. As she eats, she mumbles that it's good to share leftover food. He apologizes for not helping. She says she'll gladly take whatever she can get. She takes a huge, satisfying bite, her hunger momentarily overriding her pride. "It's delicious," she declares, and Konami is quietly glad she enjoys the meal. Her eyes dart about nervously as she continues to eat the food. Konami is unsettled, wondering why she is staring at him so intensely. He decides to ask her about her experience as a labyrinth explorer. He starts by saying everyone at the tavern knows about her, and she grunts in reply. He correctly deduces she was badly injured on the first floor and hasn't gone back. He continues, guessing she was adventuring solo and has no companions to help her. She looks down, her voice small as she quietly confirms his suspicions. Konami's eye narrows with focus, a plan forming in his mind. Dia looks up with a flicker of hope, saying that if that's the case, it's fine. He makes his proposal, asking her to challenge the labyrinth together with him. He looks on with a calm expression, having laid out his logical offer. He tells her it's a good idea since her abilities are real. She thanks him profusely. He explains his night job is no issue, and she eagerly asks to start tomorrow. He introduces himself with his alias, Siegfried Visitor, telling her to just call him Sieg. Her face lights up as she introduces herself as just Dia, delighted to meet him. They clasp hands firmly, their new and unlikely partnership officially sealed. The next day, Konami is dressed in new adventurer gear, nodding as he prepares. He gives his thanks to the shopkeeper as he leaves the establishment. He reflects that his new vigilance gear will prevent any careless mistakes. His status screen shows he is now level 4, having invested all his points into HP. Though he still trembles at the memory of his first time, he knows he is different now. His gaze is firm with resolve. He is determined that this time will be better. In the town square, a priest preaches from a dais before a tall church. Konami watches the scene from a distance, his eye catching the morning light. He spots Dia kneeling in prayer among the small crowd of onlookers. She turns her head, letting out a small sound of surprise as she notices him. She runs to meet him, surprised he's already there, and he wishes her good morning. She complains that she had hoped to level up overnight, but it didn't happen. Konami looks at her, his mind already analyzing the details of her situation. Her status screen confirms she is diapresis, level 1, and very close to leveling. He notes that she is close, but her stats remain absurdly unbalanced. Her immense magical power in particular stands out as a glaring anomaly. He muses that her name seems disconnected from his, as she is from another world. He thinks about his own alias, Siegfried Visitor, a rare name in this world. He admits to himself that his gamer brain couldn't resist the grand-sounding name. He finds it strange that she claims to have no last name, but his display shows one. He wonders if this game-like system has a hidden flaw or a display bug. He recalls the female adventurer from the day before, wondering about Dia's problems. He shakes his head, deciding there is no point in dwelling on such thoughts. He refocuses his mind, reminding himself that his return is what's truly important. Dia snaps him out of his reverie, annoyed, asking if he is even listening. Startled, he apologizes, asking if he should be the one to draw the monster's attention. He quickly apologizes again, explaining he's just a little tense from being in the labyrinth. Dia understands, recalling that he was seriously injured on the first floor. Winking confidently, she declares that it's okay this time because she is with him. Her unwavering confidence brings a warm, genuine smile to Konami's face. He suggests a strategy where he acts as vanguard so she can use magic, flustering her. She argues that if she levels up, she will fight with her sword. He thinks she is being oddly stubborn, believing she should focus on her magic. Dia glares with fierce determination, certain that she is making the right choice. He relents, agreeing to her terms and saying he will focus on evasion. The two stand together at the entrance of a long, dark, and ominous labyrinth corridor. Konami takes a single, resolute step forward, entering the dungeon's oppressive gloom. He whispers that they have returned to this dim, hellish place. A single bead of sweat rolls down his face as the familiar tension sets in. He activates his dimension magic, the world around them transforming into a glowing grid. He recalls his preparations, gathering information, practicing magic, and acquiring proper gear. He admits to himself that he still can't bring himself to fully trust his partner. Clenching his fist, he knows they are now more than prepared to face the labyrinth. He suggests they test their skills in this area, and Dia exclaims in surprise. He mentions his unorthodox map, and she clutches a piece of paper in shock. He unleashes his multi-layered dimension, a massive sensory field expanding around them. His senses detect a ghostly white shape ahead, and he confirms its presence. He calmly warns Dia that there is a monster just ahead on the path. She is startled, asking if he's sure, and he quickly confirms it. She peers into the darkness, a question mark hovering over her in confusion. A monstrous insectoid ripper beetle, rank 6, emerges from the shadows. Konami confirms it's an insect monster, just as his tavern information suggested. A sharp projectile whizzes past and he realizes the monster has spotted them. His dimensional scan reveals no other monsters, confirming this is their only foe. He tells Dia it's just one enemy and they should proceed as planned. She agrees. The beetle fires another crystalline projectile, which streaks through the air. Konami and Dia stand their ground as the ripper beetle charges toward them. He narrows his eyes, his mind focused on how to properly utilize his magic. He recalls his conversation with Chloe, who had asked if he could use magic. He remembers his party members scoffing at the idea of Clow teaching him magic. Clow's lesson echoes in his mind. Magic is all about the user's mental image. He realizes his dimension magic can be specialized for combat if he visualizes it. Konami activates his decisive battle calculation, seeing all possible futures of the fight. The Ripper Beetle is rendered as a wireframe, its every action already predicted. He exults in his newfound clarity, realizing he can see the entire battle unfold. While his perception range is narrow, his combat focus is on another level entirely. He thinks confidently that the monster is already trapped within his predictive net. He will not let the creature escape. He has already foreseen every single move. The monster's scythe-like claws lash out in a furious but predictable assault. As he moves to strike, Konami feels a crack in his perfect, calculated defense. He realizes the magic is working, but his own body feels unnaturally slow. He wonders if his level up is to blame, but his stats don't explain the lag. He grits his teeth, cursing the unnatural system of this strange new world. Dia's voice cuts through his thoughts, yelling for Sieg to attack the monster. He turns just as a blinding light erupts from Dia's outstretched hand. Konami can only look on in utter confusion, not understanding what she is doing. Dia is wreathed in an overwhelming aura of raw, destructive, magical power. He remembers her saying she couldn't use her attack magic without his help. She had seemed embarrassed, admitting that using magic alone was too hard for her. She had insisted Flame Arrow was just a basic spell that only released heat. He had assumed her allies couldn't use her because her sword skills were weak. Dia had gotten angry, thinking he was making fun of her simple magic. She insisted that if her sword leveled up, she could be a proper vanguard. He recalls the name of the spell she had mentioned, Flame Arrow. He watches in horror as the very stone beneath her feet begins to melt. He realizes with dawning terror that this is far more than a simple flame. The entire corridor is suddenly consumed by a silent, blinding flash of white light. His mind screams the only possible explanation. This wasn't magic, it was a laser. Dia unleashes the full force of her arrow, a torrent of destructive energy. The Ripper beetle is caught in the blast, its form completely vaporized by the force. All that remains is a perfectly circular, glowing hole in the labyrinth wall. Dia whispers in stunned disbelief that she defeated it so effortlessly. Konami can only stare blankly, his mind still processing her incredible display of power. Her shock gives way to pure joy as she celebrates her overwhelming victory. She happily declares that thanks to Sieg, she could focus, ready to keep going. Konami offers a weak, strained smile of congratulations. Dia is ecstatic, marveling at the abnormal power of her very first spell. She realizes that with this incredible strength, their success is now guaranteed. Konami watches her celebration, a bead of sweat on his face as he analyzes. With Konami scouting, Dia unleashes another devastating flame arrow at a distant foe. The massive orb of energy vaporizes another monster as Konami looks on. Dia shouts the spell's name, her hand thrust forward, brimming with raw power. Konami holds a magic stone, recognizing what a monster of mana Dia truly is. He notes that she shows no sign of fatigue despite her repeated powerful attacks. She is a terrifyingly efficient combination of low cost and high power. With her strength, Konami believes they can reach the labyrinth's end much faster. Dia calls out to Konami, getting his attention as he walks ahead. She begins to ask him a question about the nature of the labyrinth itself. He explains that their easy progress is strange, as the labyrinth should be dangerous. Dia asks if this means that they are the ones who are exceptionally strong. Konami agrees, adding that she clearly possesses a great talent for magic. He thinks that her power is abnormal, but he must frame it carefully. He tells her their success is due to their excellent compatibility as a team. He claims to be a specialized scout, which is why they are so effective. Dia realizes he has been finding monsters for her from a great distance. He illustrates how he finds enemies, letting her attack without being targeted. This strategy, he adds, even allows them to snipe foes from safety. Dia understands, recalling how monsters always found her first when she was alone. Konami concludes that he perfectly covers her weaknesses, creating their winning strategy. She presses him, asking how he finds enemies with such unheard-of magic. Konami freezes, the question forcing him to confront the secret of his abilities. He believes she would understand his dimension magic and display if he told her. But he knows his dimension magic is still an unknown quantity to him. More than anything, he despises the idea of exposing his own information. Dia quickly retracts her question, saying she wasn't trying to pry. He apologizes, offering a half-truth about a secret power from his homeland. She is completely relieved and excited, and he is relieved she believed him. He adds that his scouting skill is exhausting, cementing the lie. Dia thoughtfully considers how Sieg uses magic to draw monsters' attention in battle. Konami, with a strained expression, tells Dia to warn him about his MP. Konami discusses his job, and a surprised Dia realizes their time is limited. Dia excitedly suggests fighting stronger monsters, while Konami calmly praises her preparedness. Dia points in shock at a sudden, off-panel event, questioning what it is. A panicked Konami frantically warns Dia to be careful when casting her magic. Konami grits his teeth, blocking a powerful unseen attack with his sword. Dia shouts, unleashing an immense crackling sphere of powerful magical energy. An insectoid monster is silhouetted as it's engulfed by Dia's magical blast. A single ornate lantern hangs in the darkness of the labyrinth corridor. A close-up of Konami's face, showing his exhaustion and strain. Konami sits exhausted, telling a concerned Dia his magic is failing. Konami tells Dia he's leaving the labyrinth and needs her to come. Dia looks at Konami with a teasing expression, questioning his vanguard skills. Konami looks incredibly annoyed, frustrated by Dia's misunderstanding of his role. Konami explains his strategy of using magic and melee to weaken enemies. Dia looks completely shocked, realizing Konami was using magic while fighting. Konami explains it's an old magic technique for honing one's senses. Dia realizes Konami is a magic user, not just a swordsman. Konami grimly states that a mage without MP is completely useless. Dia stands with a serious and determined expression, looking slightly to the side. Kanami contemplates their strategy with a worried look, his gloved hand near his mouth. An intense close-up on Kanami's eye, showing his firm resolve to protect Dia. Lastiara looks down with a knowing and slightly condescending smile on her face. Kanami recoils in shock, flustered by a sudden, troubling thought about Lastiara. A flustered Kanami tells Dia he will see her out before continuing alone. A tight, vertical close-up on Kanami's eye as he watches Dia leave. Kanami panics, calling out to Dia as she walks away, intending to go alone. Dia turns back defiantly, stretching as she insists she can handle things herself. Kanami asks a pointed question, causing Dia to freeze mid-stretch in surprise. From behind, Dia raises her arm to her head in distress. Kanami confronts Dia about her past failures, shocking her into silence. A single finger is raised in silhouette, representing the number 1. As Lastiara makes a profound point, a weary Kanami wonders what is happening. A weary Dia stumbles forward, but Kanami warns her not to go alone, worried for her safety. Full of newfound confidence, she gives him a thumbs up, believing she has finally mastered combat. Kanami's patience breaks, and he shouts that she only won with magic, never defeating a monster herself. The harsh truth hits her, and Dia's head drops in shame as he watches with regret. Her despair turns to manic defiance as she screams that she still has her sword. He sweats, knowing he could crush her spirit by telling her the truth about her status. The emotional and physical exhaustion is too much, and Dia collapses face first onto the dungeon floor. Lying defeated, she mumbles that she needs to get power and money quickly. He rubs his head in frustration, wishing she would just accept her uselessness with a sword. She looks up with quiet despair, knowing that simply using magic isn't what she truly wants. Pushing herself up, she insists magic was a last resort. She desires to train with the sword. He argues that if power and money are her goals, becoming a mage is the logical path. Her gaze turns distant, lost in the memories of the swordsman she has always admired. She remembers a hero from a story, a figure of legendary strength and courage. Another memory surfaces, a master warrior training a student to become an unbeatable swordsman. These figures were the pride of her people, the ideal she has been chasing her whole life. Her face contorts with passion as she screams that if it's not the sword, it's meaningless. Kanami stares, his own expression intense as he finally understands the depth of her conviction. He pauses for a moment, the weight of her desperate plea hanging in the silent corridor. He realizes this isn't a logical argument, but an emotional devotion to being a swordsman. Kneeling before her, he asks softly if she is absolutely sure she wants to train the sword. He watches her intently, his expression unreadable as he weighs his options. He considers her status, seeing she has more than enough experience points to finally level up. He relents, agreeing not to stop her if she is truly determined to use her sword. He suggests they leave the labyrinth to rest and prepare, and she stammers her surprised agreement. As they walk, she admits her shock, unable to believe he is actually supporting her. She confesses that no one has ever approved of her swordsmanship, making her feel like a failure. He smiles faintly, admitting he understands that feeling more than she knows. He recalls his old life, playing games and always choosing the swordsman class. In those worlds, he reflects, the swordsman was always the appealing main character. Internally, he admits this is a strategy. Forcing her would ruin his chances of going home. He scolds himself for his cold calculations, just as she softly calls his name. With a gentle, blushing smile, she looks at him and offers a simple, heartfelt thank you. A strange, fleeting warmth touches Kanami's heart as he glances back at Dia. Dia suggests they should probably leave the labyrinth for the day. Kanami pauses, wondering to himself about that brief, unfamiliar feeling. Holding up their loot, Dia asks how they should divide the magic stones. He suggests an even split, but Dia feels he deserves a larger share. Kanami explains that a simple 50-50 split prevents any future arguments or grudges. He then proposes they use their earnings for gear and visit a church. Since they are low level, he reasons, they should focus on their equipment. Internally, however, he coldly views Dia as a tool for his own survival. Yet he acknowledges she is the first person he has met in this world. He realizes that for a moment, their exploration together was actually fun. That night, a bright moon hangs in the sky above the town tavern. Back at work, an exhausted Kanami lets out a massive yawn. Two rowdy adventurers call him out for his tired expression. He silently observes the patrons, his gaze sharp and analytical. His skill reveals the men's names and levels. Born Sky is 12, Lim Vlad is 11. He notes that even adventurers in their 30s are only around level 10. Checking his own status, he sees he is very close to reaching level 5. At this rate, he calculates it would take a year just to catch up. His expression hardens with resolve, That is simply too slow. He stares out the window, his true goal clear, the 100th floor. His co-worker Rin notices his intensity and asks what's wrong. He tells her he's just thinking about the labyrinth, which she understands. She knows he came to Walt for that purpose and offers her full support. Rin encourages him to prioritize his own dream over his job at the shop. Konami is about to ask her for information about his new dilemma. Suddenly, a figure appears behind him, offering his own expertise. The adventurer Chloe claps an arm around him, saying he can handle it. A companion teases Chloe about his long and storied history as an adventurer. Chloe just laughs it off, not bothered by his friend's playful jab. He turns his full attention back to the young waiter beside him. Taking a drink from his mug, Chloe asks Konami what he needs to know. Konami smiles brightly, asking the veteran to tell him about strong monsters. In the tavern, Konami asks Chloe about this world's strongest monsters. "Bosses!" Chloe exclaimed, as Konami confirmed he wanted to learn more. Chloe heartily agreed that knowing the dangers of the labyrinth is crucial. Rin, the waitress, warned Chloe not to ramble on for too long. Pausing his story, Chloe looked up at the shelves behind the bar. He said the first floor boss wasn't much, but a greater threat existed. With a grave expression, he revealed the creature's name, the Guardian. These great bosses wander freely from the 10th and 20th floors. He warned Konami to flee, as even the Union's strongest hero failed. Chloe then waved it off, saying encounters were rare, but Konami thanked him. "No, the best part is yet to come," Chloe said, leaning in closer. He was about to reveal the name of that legendary explorer, Glenn. Before he could finish, Chloe's exasperated party began to drag him away. They yelled at him for bothering the staff with his endless stories. Chloe's words, however, had planted a dangerous new idea in Konami's mind. Dia's eyes lit up with pure joy at the idea of fighting a boss. Konami decided it was the best way to test Dia's incredible power. He knew yesterday's easy win hadn't satisfied her desire to prove herself. Their journey took them deeper, from stone corridors onto soft, damp earth. Konami considered that, with Dia's overwhelming power, they should be fine. He stopped abruptly, his expression shifting as he saw what lay ahead. Before them, the labyrinth opened into a colossal and ancient forest. "Awesome!" Dia breathed in amazement, while Konami remained silent and wary. They had arrived in the labyrinth's forest region, an alien, vertical world. He remembered Chloe's warning, scanning the canopy for a hidden threat. His gaze swept across the impossibly high branches, searching the gloom. He focused his dimension magic, his senses stretching out into the darkness. Chloe's voice echoed in his memory, warning him of the hostile plants. The veteran adventurer's words were a stark reminder of the danger. "Sieg?" Dia asked, noticing her partner's sudden, intense focus. He finally located their quarry, declaring that the monster was nearby. High above, their target rested, the rank 12 queen of the forest. "It's there," he stated grimly, leaving a confused Dia staring up at him. Dia looks on in confusion as Konami announces his plan to immediately snipe the area's boss. Dia expresses concern in the forest, but Konami calmly reassures her. With a confident expression, Konami explains his unique abilities to a surprised Dia. Konami explains his detailed battle strategy to Dia, who listens intently. Dia looks up with a determined expression, affirming her complete trust in Konami. From a low angle, Konami reassures Dia that the plan will be easy. Dia looks flustered but determined, clenching her fist in newfound resolve. A flustered and blushing Dia reacts happily to Konami's words of encouragement. Konami and Dia stand together in a dark, dense forest clearing. A close-up of Dia's eyes, narrowed with intense concentration and focus. Dia peeks from behind Konami, looking up at him with puffed cheeks. Konami explains his secret magic to a concerned-looking Dia, gesturing dismissively. Dia gasps in shock as a projectile suddenly grazes her arm. Konami quickly apologizes for his miscalculation that got his partner hurt. Konami pulls Dia behind him for protection, directing her attention forward. Konami stands guard as Dia, now behind him, responds to his call. Konami's gloved hand is shown as he explains his plan for her. Dia looks down with a serious expression, agreeing to Konami's strategy. Konami signals that the Queen of the Forest is immobilized and ready for attack. Dia unleashes a massive, concentrated beam of magical energy from her hands. The powerful beam of light hits its target in a violent, destructive explosion. Konami shields a surprised Dia from the blast, calmly confirming the enemy is hit. Konami tells an astonished Dia that they have successfully cleared the surrounding area. Dia looks at a monster drop in her hand, hesitantly agreeing to Konami's plan. Konami reflects that this calculated method of exploring is different than he imagined. Konami explains his cold logic. This is the safest and most efficient strategy. Konami and Dia approach the stone archway of a town after their labyrinth exploration. A grimy and soaked Dia looks miserable as Konami glances over at her. Konami calmly explains the situation as an unseen person shouts angrily. Konami recalls Dia comically tripping and falling all by herself. Konami offers his jacket to a soaked and sitting Dia. A flustered Konami expresses his concern that she will catch a cold. Dia looks uncomfortable as her soaked clothes cling tightly to her body. A close-up shows Dia looking up with a shy, blushing expression. Dia excitedly points towards a bustling market, suggesting they explore it with their earnings. She then frets dramatically, worrying that catching a cold would make her a burden. Konami watches her theatrical display, his expression completely flat and unimpressed. They pass through a great stone archway, entering the city's lively open-air bazaar. Konami coolly observes the unusual assortment of items being sold at the various stalls. Dia explains it's a flea market, suggesting they might find a real bargain. Their feet tread the cobblestones as they navigate the crowded market pathways. She clarifies that it's a place for adventurers and craftsmen to sell their wares. Konami's eye is caught by a silver hairpin that can enhance the wearer's magic. Dia wonders if it's a good item. Konami confirms its minor magical properties. He purchases the trinket from a friendly cat-girl merchant at her crowded stall. The shopkeeper teases Dia, telling her she's lucky to have such a nice partner. Flustered, Dia questions what the merchant could possibly mean by that comment. A brutish adventurer scoffs, but the shopkeeper happily ignores his rude interruption. Konami realizes that, to avoid misunderstanding, he must now gift the pin to Dia. Mortified, Dia insists a boy like her can't wear it, begging Konami to say something. The mischievous shopkeeper eagerly urges him to put the new hairpin on her. With surprising gentleness, Konami carefully fastens the silver pin in Dia's hair. He smiles warmly, telling her that the delicate accessory looks good on her. Blushing, she touches the pin and quietly asks if it doesn't look strange. Overwhelmed by his kindness, she becomes comically flustered, steam rising from her. The eye patch-wearing adventurer from the tavern watches them with a knowing look. She muses that there must be easier ways to live than risking death. Dia glances over, not quite understanding what the woman is implying. She passionately declares her dream of conquering the labyrinth for fame and fortune. The adventurer finds Dia's fierce declaration both cute and amusingly feisty. Her expression darkens as she recalls the oppressive lords from her homeland. She clenches her fist, vowing to gain the power to defy anyone. Dia states that through her actions, the world will finally acknowledge her existence. Konami silently observes the intense exchange between the two adventurers from nearby. The veteran adventurer realizes she and Dia share the same core motivation. A sad, knowing smile touches her lips as this realization sinks in. She admits that she had long forgotten that simple, powerful dream of hers. Konami listens as Dia explains that his praise gave her the confidence to speak out. She turns to him with a gentle, blushing smile, admitting his words made her happy. Her pure, unguarded joy shatters Konami's cold composure in an instant. Dia and her companion notice his shocked expression and call out his name. Sig? He abruptly turns away, claiming he is suddenly tired and must head back first. As Dia waves a cheerful goodbye, Konami stumbles away into the anonymous crowd. Alone, he asks himself the true reason he keeps returning to the labyrinth. His purpose is clear, to return to his own world as Aikawa Konami. He must dive into the dungeon, not as an adventurer, but as a conqueror. The word conquer echoes in his mind, sparking a profound and horrifying realization. He understands that it's not just Dia. Everyone in this world is different. He thinks of Clow, Rin, and all the other people he has met. Each of them is a real person with their own dreams and their own lives. He recalls his own cold logic, dismissing tactics as inefficient and weakening his party. He questions if he has been treating this entire world like a simple video game. He imagines Dia wondering if he saw her as a disposable NPC, a tool to be used. The weight of his own monstrous behavior makes every step feel impossibly heavy. His strategic rules for survival now seem like a cruel litany of self-deception. He collapses to his knees, whispering that this isn't right. This isn't who he is. Clutching his head in agony, he realizes he has become the very monster he feared. Later, he finds himself standing before a quiet church under a dark, somber sky. In the end, his path of self-reflection has led him to this solemn place. He sits and observes, understanding that every person here is truly and fiercely alive. A profound shift in his perception occurs, his eyes seeing the world anew. He watches other adventurers, each one praying with their own burdens and stories. Their lives, he realizes, are just as real as any from his own world. There are no non-player characters in this world. He must finally accept this fundamental truth. If that is true, then his status screen cannot just be a simple game display. It's not just numbers. He must learn from their expressions and their humanity. He is just another human here, and his perception has been terribly wrong. With this new understanding, a genuine interest in others begins to blossom within him. A vibrant collage of warm memories with Dia and his new friends floods his mind. He recoils in embarrassment, yelling at himself for suddenly getting so mushy. Konami's brain short-circuits as he resolves to treat Dia as a man, despite all evidence. A stable hand angrily shouts for someone to move, startling Konami nearby. Konami quickly apologizes and scurries out of the cart's path. His attention is suddenly caught by something, a look of dawning realization. Through the bars of a nearby cart, he sees the huddled shapes of people. He stands in a dark alley, pondering the existence of slaves in this world. A sudden, calculating idea flashes into his mind like a cartoon light bulb. He wonders if there are others like Dia, a potential shortcut to his goal. He pulls his hood down, disgusted that his first thought is the labyrinth. With grim resolve, he decides he must investigate this dark reality further. He walks down a narrow, shadowy street, lit by a single, lonely lamp. He watches as a large, rhino-like beast is led into an opulent building. From a rooftop, he observes the city's underbelly gathering below. Activating his magic, he scans the area, which appears as a glowing grid. His magical senses focus intently on the interior of the lavish building. He perceives a man asking a group of children about a wealthy client. His eyes narrow, focusing on one small, dark-haired girl in the group. In his mind's eye, he sees her as a lone, lost child in the city. A servant outside spots him, calling out an alarm to his master. A slick-haired man appears, asking Konami his business at this late hour. Konami knows he looks suspicious, but feels he has no other choice. He offers a pouch of coins, lying that an acquaintance sent him. The man explains they are a late-night business, offering lessons for the evening. He invites Konami inside, who grimly thinks he can escape if needed. In a hallway, he sees the same dark-haired girl standing in a doorway. He is struck by a sudden, sharp pang of familiarity, his eyes wide. The girl looks at him with dark, empty eyes that seem hauntingly familiar. He dismisses it, telling himself his sister Hiyuki couldn't possibly be here. He then recognizes her as the lost slave he saw with his dimension magic. Her status screen appears, naming her Maria Distras, a level 3 slave. He notes her skills are slightly above average for someone of her station. He stammers, trying to speak to the girl who has captivated his attention. She looks at him and quietly introduces herself as Maria. Konami stares back, his expression serious as he takes in her name. He replies with his own alias, telling her that he is Sieg. His eyes widen in alarm as he hears a sudden harsh shout. The slick-haired man Yaga angrily orders someone to take the slave away. One of Yaga's men grabs Maria's arm, telling her to come along. As she is dragged away, Maria looks back at Konami one last time. Konami watches her go, his hand covering his mouth in silent shock. A close-up shows Maria's dark, hollow eye as she is pulled away. She disappears into a dark doorway, swallowed by the building's shadows. Jaga apologizes for the scene, offering to continue their business. Konami declines, stating that he has learned all he needs to for today. He turns and leaves as Jaga bows, hoping for his return. Outside, Konami berates himself for being so careless and getting involved. His expression hardens with resolve, his thoughts turning inward. But he can't shake the feeling that the girl, Maria, reminds him of Hiyuki. He clutches his head, forcing himself to calm down and push the thought away. He knows thinking of his sister will make him reckless in the labyrinth. This world is not so kind that it can be conquered by mere sentiment. He tries to focus, reaffirming his current identity. Siegfried, visitor of this world. Back in his room, he tells himself not to think about it for now. He collapses onto his bed, trying to forget the horrors he has witnessed. He buries his face in his sheets, trying to force the world away. His dreams are a chaotic flash of a modern city skyline from his old world. The dream zooms in on a single massive skyscraper. A television screen announces that the next news story is coming up. The news reports that a celebrity has been arrested for drug trafficking. In his dream, he sits on his couch at home, watching the broadcast. He clutches his head, his face a mask of silent, screaming agony. The shock and horror of the news report ripple through him. His expression is one of utter devastation and disbelief. The nightmare shifts and he whispers his sister's name, Hiyuki. A monstrous shadow looms over him, whispering that it is almost time. The shadowy beast strikes him with a powerful wave of darkness. As he's consumed, he wonders if he can possibly overcome this. The monster's voice echoes that he must overcome this trial. Konami's eyes snap open with a sharp gasp, waking from the nightmare. He sits up in bed, realizing it was just a strange, vivid dream. He clutches his chest, recalling the dream of the place where Hiyuki slept. Dia calls to him from outside, asking if he's not going to the labyrinth. He remembers that it's a festival day and he planned to explore. He scrambles to get ready, thanking her for the timely reminder. He finds Dia sitting peacefully on a stone wall by a church, reading. He jogs up to her, asking if she had been waiting long for him. He expresses his surprise, saying he didn't expect her to be a reader. She explains that she loves reading legends and stories about heroes. She looks off dreamily, hoping she can become like them someday. Konami listens with a small, gentle smile, understanding her dream. Dia hops off the wall, excited to share some good news with him. She proudly puffs out her chest, announcing that she is now level 6. Konami brings up his own status, confirming he has also reached level 6. His eyes narrow as he notices the class designation on her status. He realizes her class bonus is the source of her obsession with swords. Dia tells him that since she's also level 6 now, it means something. She asks if it's finally time for him to see her swordsmanship. She pleads that even if it's useless, she still wants to use her sword. To her great surprise, Konami agrees, but only on the 5th floor. He mentally reviews her stats, calculating that with his help, it is possible. He recalls other adventurers describing the monsters that await them there. He decides it wouldn't hurt to let her indulge her pride for a bit. Overjoyed, Dia leaps into his arms, shouting his name in gratitude. He is completely flustered by the hug, saying it's really no problem. They pull apart, both blushing and embarrassed by the sudden display. Dia declares with renewed vigor that they will explore deep today. They descend into the labyrinth, entering the deep forest of the 4th floor. The two of them move cautiously through the dense, gnarled trees. Konami uses his senses to warn her of skyfish 12 steps ahead. A swarm of the piranha-like monsters bursts from the trees towards them. Dia charges to meet them, declaring that the first strike ensures victory. In the labyrinth's depths, Dia desperately fends off a swarm of airborne skyfish. One of the vicious creatures lunges, its fanged maw snapping directly at her. The monstrous fish, defined by its single large eye, closes in for the kill. From a safe distance, Konami calmly assesses her ability to defend herself. He decides to intervene, preparing to use a more creative form of magic. Concentrating his will, he chants the name of his spell, forming ice in his hand. He recalls that the key to powerful magic is a strong, detailed mental image. His power first manifests as a rough, unformed block of crystalline ice. Meticulously visualizing a weapon, he shapes the ice into a sharp, deadly spear. Satisfied with his creation, he brandishes the newly formed ice javelin. He shouts a quick command, telling his partner Dia to take a small step back. With a powerful motion, he hurls the icy projectile straight into the fray. Unleashing his unique dimension skill, he prepares to manipulate the spear's path. He knows this power will allow him to guide the attack with perfect accuracy. The skyfish reacts in shock as the homing projectile closes in on it. The ice javelin strikes true, brutally impaling the creature against the labyrinth wall. He notes the monster's quick reaction, but is relieved that his attack landed. Dia seizes the opening, leaping onto the pinned monster for the finishing blow. With a mighty battle cry, she brings her sword down with decisive force. Her powerful strike cleaves through the monster's head, ending its life. She cheers triumphantly, proud to have defeated it with her own sword. Konami congratulates her, and she joyfully embraces him, calling out his name, Sieg. Holding a new sword he gave her, she feels like a hero from a story. He asks if the beautiful blade has some special significance to her. It is an heirloom sword that converts the wielder's dexterity into attack power. He observes that while the sword is old, it is clearly a masterwork blade. Rearmed and re-energized, Dia looks forward with fierce, renewed determination. She eagerly urges him onward, ready to face whatever challenge comes next. Suddenly, a massive scorpion monster appears and Konami shouts a warning. Realizing he can't count on her for support, he knows he must act in one move. The monster's enormous pincer swings down in a devastating, crushing arc. Konami leaps in front of Dia, intercepting the powerful attack with his own sword. His blade holds firm against the crushing force, saving his partner from certain death. Konami's sword meets the monster's pincer in a shower of sparks and force. With focused intensity, he holds back the creature's overwhelming strength, his blade glowing. He pants, warning of the danger, and then asks if his partner Dia is okay. Dia looks up, thanking Sieg for saving her, her expression full of worried gratitude. She apologizes for her recklessness, but he calmly tells her that it is no problem. He suggests they brace themselves and continue, noting they still have some leeway. She agrees. A mocking voice suddenly calls out, taunting them for nearly dying just moments ago. They both turn with hardened expressions, Dia asking with contempt who is there. Kureb recognizes Dia as the level 1 brat, sneering that she's courting death. A dark, viscous goo begins to drip ominously from the cavern ceiling above them. From the dripping slime, a grotesque, amorphous creature begins to take shape in darkness. A blinding flash of magical energy erupts, instantly vaporizing the newly formed monster. "All right, let's go," Dia eagerly says, while Konami can only manage a tired, "Oh, okay." Dia notices his stony silence, her own expression worried as she asks if he's angry. He says he isn't angry, but tells her to be more thoughtful. She apologizes softly. Konami internally dismisses the pointless nature of their impending competition. He resolves that because it's so meaningless, he must achieve an overwhelming victory. From a distance, one of the other adventurers yells at them to shut up. Kureb taunts them from a ledge, saying they were just careless in the labyrinth. Dia furiously asks if he's picking a fight, while Kureb mocks her for being weak. She screams that she won't lose, but Konami advises against fighting other explorers here. Kureb scoffs that he isn't so bored as to waste his time fighting a child. "Wait!" Dia screams in frustration, accusing them of running away from the challenge. A sharp sound shows Konami's patience has finally run completely out with this farce. Kureb says they cannot back down, but reminds everyone they are on a guild quest. Dia eagerly proposes a competition, using their respective quests as the basis for it. He reveals their quest is to hunt the hung shadow, a creature skilled at hiding. He boasts it's a quest for skilled explorers, as Konami warns her not to agree. With a smug grin, Kureb proposes they compete to see who can kill more. Dia confidently accepts the bet, declaring that a challenge like this sounds fun. Konami agrees as well, thinking that it would be a welcome change of pace. With his face hidden in shadow, Kureb asks a sinister question. "What is the bet?" The adventurer's eyes glint with a cruel and predatory light, the trap now sprung. The adventurer Kureb mockingly offers to prepare anything Dia desires for their contest. Dia retorts that a bet is absurd, as she doesn't have any money. She stands defiantly, her hand near her sword, ready for whatever comes next. Kureb leans in close, snarling that if she loses, she will sell her body. With a leering smile, he promises to ensure she fetches a very high price. Her face contorts with rage as she accepts, vowing he will apologize if he loses. Kureb triumphantly accepts the deal, but Konami's voice calmly tells Dia to wait. Konami emerges, his expression grim, stating that this unfair bet is now off. Kureb dismisses him, insisting the contest is between him and the young girl, Dia. Konami looks at Dia with a brief, pained smile before his demeanor hardens. He begins to lecture her, revealing the trap Kureb had so carefully laid. Dia is flustered, stammering as she realizes the truth in his sharp words. Konami chides her for foolishly accepting the bet without consulting him first. Kureb arrogantly declares he'll take on both of them, 2 against his 3. Konami coolly states that he has no interest in participating in such a match. Dia watches her partner, her expression a mixture of grit and admiration. Seeing her resolve, Konami surprises everyone by agreeing to the duel after all. He states he has one condition, and Kureb impatiently tells him to say it. Konami proposes a new contest, a one-on-one duel with a 1-hour time limit. Kureb scoffs, certain that he could never fail to defeat Konami in an hour. With a knowing smile, Konami goads him, questioning if he could even land one blow. Kureb clicks his tongue in annoyance but agrees, seeing it as a way to save time. Konami stops him once more, insisting there is another matter to settle first. A member of Kureb's party questions if they will even honor the bet if they lose. Kureb asks how a country boy like Konami would know about such legal matters. Konami points to the ground, explaining that oaths sworn on mana lines are binding. He stands confidently, having turned the tables with his unexpected knowledge of the law. Kureb warns that there is no backing out once the oath is made. Konami agrees. The brutish adventurer smirks, admitting Konami is more clever than he first thought. Dia, filled with new courage, steps forward to take on the challenge herself. Standing before her tormentor, she loudly declares her oath upon the magic stone line. She raises her sword, betting her body and pride as she challenges him to a duel. Konami watches silently as Dia, empowered by his support, prepares to fight her own battle. He whispers an apology to his alias, Sieg, crushing a dark magic stone. Konami dismisses Dia's concerns, insisting that he was the one who involved her. He clenches his fist, disgusted by the unpleasant nature of their brutish opponent. With a confident smirk, Dia declares this is their chance to make them acknowledge her. She turns to him with a bright smile, asking what he was about to say. Konami hesitates, his important unspoken thought left hanging in the air. They arrive in a wide cavernous plaza connecting the 5th and 6th floors. Kureb's party stares at a crate, calling the scene before them ridiculous. One of them points in disbelief, exclaiming that 11 magic stones are impossible. Kureb accuses them of cheating, but Konami calmly confirms their victory. Dia boasts that it was a simple task, especially for the incredible Sieg. Kureb's face twists into a mask of pure, unadulterated rage. He lunges, demanding to know if they truly expect him to acknowledge this. Dia is taken aback by his sudden, aggressive outburst. The brutish adventurer stands over them, his party members looking on. He declares the match pointless, refusing to accept defeat to level 1 kids. Dia furiously reminds him of the sacred oath made by the magic stone lines. Kureb scoffs, saying he doesn't care about such things. He sneers that money can be made anywhere and tells them to just disappear. Dia looks to Konami, sadly admitting that talking to them is pointless. She agrees with a heavy heart that Sieg was right about them all along. Konami steps forward, telling Dia to stay back while he handles this. He calmly states that he is more than enough to deal with them. With grim determination, he prepares to face the entire party by himself. With a furious roar, Kureb and his companions charge at the lone boy. Konami moves in a blur, effortlessly disarming one of the attackers. The adventurers are shocked, questioning how this powerful fighter could be a novice. Konami's gaze is sharp and focused. He knows he can win this fight. His dimension magic analyzes their levels, confirming they are no match for his skill. He warns Kureb not to flinch as the brute swings his massive axe. Konami easily parries the powerful blow, his movements fluid and precise. He lets out a small, confident sound in complete control of the battle. His senses perceive their planned 2-stage attack from his blind spot. He effortlessly dodges the first part of their pincer movement. He counters with a spinning slash, moving with impossible grace and speed. His blade connects, forcing Kureb to grunt in pain and surprise. Konami's focus is already on his next move, his mind working steps ahead. He spots the female mage preparing a spell and knows he must stop her. He glances up, realizing he can use the labyrinth's ceiling as a foothold. He launches himself into the air, his incredible speed shocking his opponents. The spiky-haired adventurer looks up in alarm at the impossible aerial assault. Konami pushes himself, determined to reach his target before the spell is cast. He knows he can make it in time, his body a blur of motion. His eyes are narrowed in intense concentration as he closes the distance. Dia screams his name as he intercepts both the adventurer and the mage. The female mage coolly declares that the fight is now over. Konami holds the defeated adventurer, stating that it is indeed finished. He tells them he doesn't want their money, only that they never insult Dia again. His gaze is cold and unwavering, his threat hanging heavy in the air. Kureb and the mage stammer their agreement, utterly defeated and terrified. The party limps away, leaving Konami and Dia alone in the chamber. Konami sheathes his sword, admitting the fight was a bit chilling. A mysterious woman's voice notes that some things cannot be measured by numbers. Konami reflects that relying too much on status alone is a dangerous mistake. He notices a short sword on the floor, forgotten by the defeated party. He decides to keep it as a spare, doubting he'll see them again. Dia quietly apologizes, but Konami reassures her that he was angry too. Her eyes well with tears as she explains she just wanted their acknowledgement. Konami gently tells her that being truly acknowledged is an incredibly difficult thing. Dia looks up, wondering if she is even acknowledged by this world. Konami suggests they leave for the day, as his MP is running low. A deep, ancient voice declares that letting them leave would be a problem. Dia is startled as Konami realizes, with alarm, that he's made a mistake. He looks up in terror, knowing he can't allow them to leave now. A monstrous, shadowy hand appears as the voice bids them welcome. The voice explains that rare children like them cannot be allowed to return. Konami is shocked, wondering why such a powerful being is here. The creature introduces itself as Tiata, the guardian of the 20th floor. It sends out orbs of darkness, stating it will be counting on them. Konami panics, saying this isn't right. He's heard about the guardian's companion. Kureb's party, having returned, is also shocked to see the legendary guardian. The other adventurers foolishly prepare to fight, thinking they have a chance. The guardian admits it was surprised the hung shadow was defeated so quickly. It notes their speed, then turns its full, terrifying attention to Dia. Konami screams at Dia to run at full speed to just get away. They sprint down the corridor as the guardian prepares its attack. The guardian notes their quick decision-making, but says it's not done talking. A massive shadowy scythe slices through the air directly toward them. Konami shoves Dia out of the path of the deadly, swift attack. The scythe slams into the wall, pinning Konami by his cloak. The Guardian seems amused by Konami's quick defensive maneuver. Konami's eye widens in terror as he sees the next attack forming. A sharp, shadowy spike erupts from the floor directly beneath him. The single spike becomes a forest of them, bursting from the ground. Dia is thrown back by the sheer force of the magical eruption. Konami's eyes blaze with focus as he activates his dimension skill. Dia is sent tumbling across the stone floor, She gets to her feet, screaming his name in absolute panic. Konami is trapped, impaled, and held aloft by a cage of shadow spikes. The Guardian pauses, sensing an unexpected presence nearby. Dia rushes to help, but Konami tells her to hurry and run. The Guardian is annoyed, saying this interruption is more than it imagined. A blast of fire erupts as its caster, Alti, announces her arrival. The powerful flames incinerate the shadow spikes, freeing Konami from the trap. Konami and Dia are left standing amidst clouds of smoke and steam. Dia desperately looks for an escape route from the chaotic scene. Konami stares in disbelief, realizing the impossible has just happened. A figure wreathed in powerful flames stands defiantly before them. The fiery newcomer tells the Guardian, Tieta, not to order her around. Alti, her eyes narrowed, declares that she is not Tieta's subordinate. Tieta questions why Alti, the 10th Guardian, is interfering with its duty. Alti smugly declares their actions serve a greater goal, but Konami furiously rejects any shared purpose. Konami wonders in frustration why so many powerful bosses are suddenly appearing before them. Dia panics, realizing they face the Guardians, that humanity's strongest hero, Glenn, failed to defeat. The Guardian Tieta reminisces, calling its past battle with the hero Glenn a nostalgic memory. It coldly concludes that the legendary hero was, in the end, just slightly insufficient to win. The two adventurers stare in disbelief, the grim reality of their situation sinking in. Konami questions if this is a trial for the worthy, and Dia affirms her belief that they are. Drawing her sword, Dia tells Sieg to be ready, as such trials are expected in the labyrinth. Konami shouts his partner's name, his face etched with worry for her safety. Tieta descends, noting Dia's pitiful state, yet finding her abilities and appearance impressive. The Guardian observes that she bears a striking resemblance to the legendary heroes of the past. From the sidelines, Alti calmly confirms that the resemblance is indeed there. Konami looks back, intrigued by the idea that his partner resembles legendary figures. He tries to reason politely with the Guardian, but Tieta coldly rebuffs his friendly address. Konami pleads that they do not wish for a trial and seeks a path through dialogue instead. The Guardian notes his lack of fighting spirit, finding his pacifism peculiar. It declares that the world's unwritten law dictates that humans and monsters must always fight. Konami's eyes burn with silent rage at the monster's uncompromising cruelty. As they evade its lunge, the Guardian taunts them for not even trying to escape. Dia shields Konami, knowing a solo boss fight is not ideal but sometimes necessary. Tieta offers Alti the chance to pass first, but she calmly refuses the offer. Alti explains she has more to do here and is on the verge of resolving her doubts. Understanding, the Guardian then requests that Alti please seal the chamber for their battle. Alti agrees to its request, her own fiery power flaring in response. With a soundless flash of movement, she vanishes from her spot. She reappears in an instant, swinging a great spear made of crackling dark flames. The fiery weapon smashes into the stone floor with immense, world-shaking force. Trapped in a ring of fire, the pair stands ready as the Guardian looms above them. The two heroes brace themselves for the fight, framed by the roaring wall of dark fire. Her task complete, Alti and her silent companion turn to leave the sealed arena. The vast, distorted arena dwarfs the two small figures facing their immense, shadowy foe. Tieta informs the departing Alti that the barrier won't last long and offers its thanks. As the flames burn intensely, Alti offers a final, simple farewell to the Guardian. Dia sighs in relief, while Konami notes they've luckily avoided a larger ambush. An ancient voice suddenly declares that their every escape route has been sealed. The Guardian, Tieta, descends, announcing this space is now the 20th floor. It explains that they cannot escape this hastily created, sealed pocket dimension. With a dark flourish, the entity formally welcomes them to the 20th trial. Tieta reaffirms its absolute authority, stating this place is now its domain. It offers a mock apology for suddenly bringing its fiery realm to them. Konami grimaces, the immense pressure of the situation clearly weighing on him. He knows that with their vast level difference, a direct assault is impossible. For their low-level party, he concludes a surprise attack is their only path. Dia, her expression tense, turns to Konami and asks for the battle plan. As he begins to strategize, the Guardian taunts them for their hesitation. With a final word, the shadowy creature lunges forward with impossible speed. Konami's eye widens in shock, barely able to track the sudden movement. Dia is caught completely off guard by the sheer velocity of the attack. A blur of shadow, the Guardian announces its intent as it attacks her. Its shadowy blades descend in a flurry of unstoppable, chaotic strikes. She is thrown onto the defensive, barely parrying the relentless assault. A blade whips past her head, the near miss leaving her completely stunned. But in that same instant, Konami moves to intercept the final blow. He pushes her to safety, shocked she could even perceive the attack's speed. He barely made it in time, even with his dimension magic fully active. He knows that simply defending against this speed is a recipe for disaster. He fluidly dodges a sweeping attack, his mind calculating his next move. The Guardian seems to express surprise, tilting its featureless head in curiosity. He reveals a second blade, a massive sword of shimmering crystalline ice. With his new weapon, he presses the attack, determined to seize control. His expression is a mask of grim determination as he lunges forward. The clash of his ice sword against the Guardian's form fills the chamber. The Guardian expresses its delight that he has finally decided to fight back. But Konami knows his ice sword cannot possibly last long in the sea of fire. He makes a desperate gamble, leaping high into the air for an overhead attack. Shouting that the odds are against him, he brings his sword crashing down. Amidst shattered ice, Konami stands resolute, his weapon ready for the next assault. Dia cries out her partner's name, her voice filled with desperate concern. He stands his ground, a lone figure braced against an overwhelming unseen force. A close-up reveals the sheer strain and intense concentration etched on his face. He remains turned toward the threat, his back a wall of grim determination. Dia's eyes widen in sudden shock at the ferocity of the battle. The Guardian taunts him, demanding he reveal the true extent of his power. Pushed beyond his limits, he snarls and unleashes his ultimate skill, Dimension. Reality fractures into a glowing grid, mapping out every possible attack. His eyes burn with focus as he weaves through the storm of lethal blows. The Guardian expresses disbelief that he can still evade its relentless assault. He blocks another crushing strike, the Guardian growing frustrated by his constant defense. He defiantly roars at the monster to shut up, parrying with all his might. A heavy blow finally connects, sending him stumbling across the stone floor. The Guardian's shadowy fist lands with brutal, shocking force against the boy. Though dazed by the impact, his expression remains unbroken and ready to fight. The world dissolves into a chaotic blur of violent motion and raw energy. Tiada offers a chilling compliment, acknowledging his impressive countermaneuver. He regains his footing, preparing himself for the next phase of the fight. He slams his palm to the floor, calling upon the last of his ice magic. The Guardian looks on, momentarily confused by the seemingly weak shards of ice. It recognizes the fragments as remnants of his previous ice sword attack. His eyes narrow. This is a desperate, improvised gambit born of pure necessity. The shards erupt into a jagged mountain of ice, impaling the shadowy Guardian. Seeing her chance, Dia unleashes a devastating beam of pure, destructive energy. The Guardian finally understands. The ice was merely a trap for this moment. It questions if this brilliant technique is a mere imitation of its own power. He watches intently as Dia prepares to unleash an even more powerful spell. With a determined cry, she unleashes the full, fiery might of her magic. Amused, the Guardian calls it an interesting and fitting form of magical revenge. The ancient being faces its apparent destruction with a strange, detached curiosity. A cataclysmic explosion of fire and ice completely obliterates the Guardian's form. Dia cries out in pure joy and relief, celebrating their hard-won victory. Amidst the smoky aftermath, Dia praises Sieg, exclaiming that he was amazing as expected. The Guardian's shadowy form crumbles into dust, seemingly defeated by Konami's attack. Konami questions his victory, a deep sense of unease settling over him. A sinister laugh echoes as the Guardian's face merges with Konami's shadow. Dia cries out his name in alarm as the entity taunts her about her partner. He realizes in horror that the Guardian has gotten inside him, its speed overwhelming him. The shadowy parasite grins, declaring it will now resort to using magic. Konami desperately shoves Dia forward, ordering her to attack the monstrous creature. His senses betray him. He hears a strange sound, questioning his distorted reality. The Guardian's voice reveals it has stolen his very familiarity with the dark. It proclaims itself a manipulator of hearts, a thief of the logic of darkness. He realizes with terror that his condition is an anomaly caused by the Guardian. In a desperate act, Konami forces his internal status screen to appear before him. The screen reveals two new curses, mental pollution and darkness, much to his horror. With a furious roar, the Guardian screams at him not to touch it. Kanami grunts, forced onto the defensive against the encroaching shadowy entity. Dia cries out an apology to Sieg, her flames proving useless against the creature. He curses his own power, realizing even dimension magic barely reveals the foe. Pure terror grips him as he understands the direness of his hopeless situation. A new humanoid form emerges, smiling as it declares the start of round 2. The entity mocks his limited perception, noting he can only see a shadow. Tears of frustration fall as he laments his inability to withstand an attack. Kanami leaps into action, his attack met with a dismissive sound from the Guardian. He slashes wildly, but the Guardian notes his attack now lacks its usual finesse. His movements have grown dull as the Guardian's shadow clones surround him. As he braces himself, a thick tendril of pure darkness whips towards him. Dia realizes with horror that the attack is a brutal, crushing blow. The immense force of the impact sends Kanami's body flying across the room. Dia can only watch, her face a mask of shock and utter disbelief. He is thrown across the chamber, landing in a heap before the shadowy victor. Dia screams out his name, her voice echoing in the silent labyrinth chamber. She rushes to his side, asking if he is all right, as he groans in pain. Panicked, she asks what the monster did to him, urging him to get up. His eyes glaze over with a familiar emptiness as he thinks, "Not again!" Dia spins around in horror as her partner Kanami is struck down. His eyes are wide with disbelief, unable to process the sudden, crippling attack. He collapses, realizing his limbs are paralyzed and a new terror has begun. A status window confirms his fate: mental pollution, darkness, and partial paralysis. His mind fractures, unable to accept the horrifying reality of his situation. He writhes on the ground, screaming as Dia warns the unseen enemy away. He claws at the floor, desperate to escape this place and his own body. Dia watches helplessly, whispering his name, "Sieg!" in a tone of pure terror. The Guardian Tieta looms, taunting him, asking if he was afraid. It had expected more from his talent, but now deems his spirit worthless. Dia furiously demands to know what the monstrous being did to Sieg. Kanami questions his own preparedness, wondering if he was ready to die. Dia glares defiantly, silently challenging the creature's lecture on resolve. The Guardian explains that preparedness is the resolve to make one's own decisions. It dismisses those without it as unworthy, gesturing to Kanami's pathetic form. Enraged, Kanami internally scoffs at the very notion of being prepared. He had no such thing after being suddenly thrown into this cruel world. His only drive was to enter the labyrinth to return to his sister, Hiyuki. He then recalls Dia's cheerful invitation to challenge the labyrinth with her. Bolstered by these memories, he pushes himself from the ground with a roar. He staggers upright, seeing Dia standing guard bravely between him and the darkness. As he denies his fate, Dia rushes to him, asking what's happened. The Guardian declares it's over, but Kanami is not yet broken. He finds his voice screaming his own name in a desperate act of defiance. With a surge of will, he forces his trembling body to stand. Annoyed by the display, the Guardian decides it is time to end this. Dia leaps forward with a furious roar, forbidding it from getting near Sieg. The Guardian pities the girl, deciding she alone must not become a threat. It calculates that her powerful magic could have defeated it in a 3 count. She screams at it to stop muttering and lunges with her sword. Her attack is effortlessly caught by one of the Guardian's shadowy tendrils. She grits her teeth, her desperate lunge completely and utterly nullified. The Guardian states that the answer to her futile struggle is obvious. Dia is ensnared by the Guardian's shadowy tendrils, her body contorted in agony. Her eyes are wide with shock and terror, the situation turning hopeless in an instant. Thrown to the ground, she defiantly asks why it attacks, recalling its earlier words. The Guardian dismisses her, declaring her no match as its shadowy tendril strikes. Dia watches in horror as the lethal attack whips towards her unprotected form. With a sharp crack, an unseen force deflects the shadowy blow at the last second. The Guardian recoils, surprised by this sudden and unexpected magical intervention. Dia looks on in stunned confusion as jagged shards of ice erupt from the floor. Her expression shifts to bewildered relief as she sees who has come to her aid. Kanami's face is a mask of fury as he roars the command for his spell. A massive sphere of ice slams into the Guardian, who cries out in frustration. He screams the command again and again, desperately trying to freeze the monster solid. With a guttural roar, the Guardian shatters its icy prison, completely unharmed. Kanami now stands as a shield between the monster and his fallen partner. Dia cries his name in worry as he stands grimly, blood trickling from his mouth. He mutters that he feels better now, having shaken off the mental assault. He apologizes, blaming himself, but she insists his own safety is more important. A nearby adventurer wonders if the Guardian's frozen arm is permanently disabled. A chilling laugh echoes as Tiada regenerates, looming over the tiny adventurers. The Guardian questions his resolve, acknowledging him as a truly interesting opponent. It complements his incredible growth and speed, its form a swirling mass of shadow. Konami smirks, bluffing that the creature's signature magic has no effect on him. Tiada sees through the lie, noting it takes time to nullify its power. He coolly asks what their next move should be, hiding his utter desperation. Internally, he knows the truth. His MP is at 0, and his magic is gone. He understands that whether he hesitates or flees, death is the only outcome. With fierce resolve, he focuses inward, determined to squeeze out every last drop of power. He forges a new weapon, a glowing blade of ice born from his combined skills. Leaping over the monster, he asks where it will strike as he brings his sword down. With a determined grimace, Konami drives the improvised blade forward for the final blow. The Guardian cryptically asks if he is sure he does not want to dodge. The horrifying reality is revealed. Tiada has used Dia as a human shield. His mind shatters into a void of terror, his will consumed by his failure. Steel shrieks as Konami intercepts the blindingly fast attack, his eye wide with focus. Konami's eye swirls with a chaotic light as he makes a desperate decision. Struck by a shadowy tendril, a system message announces his skill is running rampant. He parries another swift attack, the impact flashing brightly in the dim light. The Guardian's swirling face declares that this thrilling battle is simply irresistible. With his sword held ready, Konami prepares to counter the Guardian's next lunge. The Guardian asks if Konami feels the same exhilaration, inviting him to embrace the madness. Caught by inky tendrils, Konami's face is a mask of determined, desperate struggle. He grits his teeth, knowing the debilitating mental assault is about to strike again. His mind is a collage of fears, dying alone, this dim hell, the mental pollution. To fight back, he accelerates the process, willingly inducing his own mental breakdown. The Guardian is surprised, wondering if its magic is truly ineffective against him. He roars, refusing to let the Guardian regenerate the parts he has already frozen. From the sidelines, Alti watches, coolly wondering how this desperate struggle will end. Dia whispers his alias, Sieg, her voice laced with deep concern. He knows his bluff is working, his mind assessing that he can resist the status effect. A desperate hope glimmers in his eyes. He believes he can defeat the Guardian. The Guardian lets out a soft, contemplative hum, assessing its opponent's new state. It effortlessly blocks his blade, declaring that he cannot truly negate its power. Konami realizes with a jolt that resistance is usually limited to specific magic types. A bead of sweat traces his temple as his plan begins to unravel. He checks his status, questioning the strange new debuff he sees, elation. The Guardian presses its attack, vowing not to give him a single moment's rest. Cursing under his breath, he endures another forced stabilization from his rampaging skill. His status screen confirms the growing madness, his chaos level climbing to 8.61. He wonders frantically why this euphoric elation status isn't fading away. His eye is wide, no longer with fear, but with a manic, battle-crazed light. The Guardian taunts him, asking if this is really a bad status effect for him. Frustrated by his unknown skill, he feels he's just a little closer to victory. The Guardian praises his fierce eyes, declaring that this is true humanity. It revels in the glorious struggle between life and death, urging him to fight on. Konami meets its madness, declaring that death itself will not separate them in this battle. Dia cries out a desperate warning, shouting that this is bad and he must stop. She realizes with horror that he's being completely consumed by the Guardian's pace. Turning on her with a wild grin, he snarls for her to be quiet. His mind is consumed by one thought: he is close to defeating this powerful boss. The Guardian grunts, parrying another of his increasingly ferocious attacks. His eye widens in the heat of battle as he spots a potential weakness. He questions what he's seeing, wondering if it could be the creature's core. He knows that if he can just destroy that one glowing point, he will win. With a desperate final roar, he lunges forward to defeat the Guardian. The Guardian cruelly reveals his target was nothing more than a disappointing decoy. A horrifying vision begins, showing dark, sharp projectiles streaking through the air. Konami's eye reflects the impending disaster, wide with absolute terror. In the vision, he is thrown back, his face a mask of shock and pain. The vision shows him failing to save Dia as the spikes pierce her body. His world goes black as the vision transitions to its tragic conclusion. Dia's sword is left planted alone in a desolate landscape of rubble. His eye is wide with pure, unadulterated horror at the vision's meaning. Reality mimics the vision as the Guardian's tendril impales Dia, who cries out. The guardian casually acknowledges her, calling her a pitiful, insignificant thing. Kanami watches in horror as Dia's body begins to dissolve into particles of light. A single glowing crystal is all that remains of his fallen friend. The tear-like crystal falls, landing softly on the cold stone floor. His face is a mask of utter disbelief and soul-crushing grief. His mind lets out a silent, agonizing scream of her name. Dia! The vision continues, showing a dark hooded figure symbolizing his despair. A caption explains that the beast is crying over the desolate scene. An eye reflects the sorrow, unsure of what it has just witnessed. The memory of the beast's sorrowful cry echoes in his mind. The vision ends, and he is back, holding Dia's broken and bleeding body. He pleads for her to wait, knowing deep down that it's already too late. The guardian looms over them, finding a perverse beauty in their futile struggle. It muses that their efforts are all the more beautiful because they are useless. Kanami glares up at the monster, his face contorted in a silent, furious snarl. He screams for it to get away from her, erecting a desperate wall of ice. The guardian shatters the ice with a casual gesture, amused by his defiance. Dia looks at her own terrible wound, her hope completely extinguished. Kanami's battle high has vanished, leaving only the raw agony of his failure. A cold, logical thought suggests he should use Dia as a tool to survive. He breaks down, sobbing that he could never do such a monstrous thing. He remembers his own loneliness and his desperate desire to escape this world. He recalls being the one who needed saving, the one who first reached out a hand. A memory of his younger self appears, offering a hand in friendship. Looking at Dia, he declares he can't abandon his only friend in this world. He desperately uses his ice magic, trying to seal her grievous wound. He wonders if he can possibly stop the bleeding with ice alone. The guardian watches his futile efforts, a silent, swirling silhouette. Kanami rises, planting Dia's sword in the ground, preparing for a final stand. He lets out a defiant, world-shaking roar of the guardian's name. Tiara! He charges forward with reckless abandon, his body a blur of pure rage. The guardian notes his approach, amused that he is coming straight for it. It questions if his raw anger can truly grant him victory against it. A blade of pure ice forms in Kanami's hand, shocking the guardian. He shatters the guardian's shadowy arm with his newly formed ice sword. Impressed, the guardian wonders if he can truly freeze its entire body. Kanami swings his ice sword in a wide defensive arc, creating distance. The guardian observes his desperate state, speaking a single ominous word. However, it notes his small blade and exhaustion, asking if he's burning his own life force. His status shows 0 MP. His life is now the fuel for this fight. The guardian declares that this will be fun, a true test of wills. They clash high above a landscape of jagged, broken stone. The sound of their swords clashing echoes throughout the desolate chamber. Their battle is a chaotic, desperate blur of impacts and flashing light. A memory surfaces in Dia's fading consciousness, a quiet utterance of, "Ah." She recalls a peaceful, sunlit village nestled between rocky cliffs. In her memory, a young girl plays at being a swordsman with a wooden sword. A kind young man tells her she needs more training to become a storybook hero. He spars with her gently as two women watch on with fond smiles. She remembers the feeling of two hands holding, a symbol of family and connection. The family walks away down a sun-dappled path, a memory of a life now lost. A young girl with spiky hair looks up in sudden surprise. The freckled girl looks up with wide eyes, addressing someone older. Lastiara appears, asking a question with a calm, curious expression. An extreme close-up on Lastiara's eye as she begins to speak. A curious child peeks from behind someone, asking about a beautiful person. Lastiara stands before four adventurers who are bowing deeply in reverence. A close-up on Lastiara's calm, observant eye as she is addressed. A female adventurer smiles smugly, calling Lastiara a divine apostle from heaven. Dia looks flustered and surprised, beginning to introduce herself to someone. Kanami stands alone in darkness, struggling with his sense of identity. Kanami lies defeated amidst rubble, his eyes closed in exhaustion or pain. Kanami lunges forward with a fierce look, denying his involvement in something. Kanami reflects gratefully on how Dia listened to and acknowledged him. A pool of darkness spreads, symbolizing Dia as his only precious companion. Dia kneels in a dark pool, wings of light behind her, vowing to prevent death. Huge, sharp projectiles of ice tear through the air above a dark pool. The scribbled, shadowy guardian expresses shock and confusion at the sudden ice attack. Kanami sees an opening as the guardian is trapped by a mountain of ice shards. A close-up on Kanami's determined face as he realizes this is his chance to strike. Konami watches intently as Dia kneels in the distance, surrounded by the ice she summoned. Dia stands resolutely, her body crumbling and disintegrating into pieces from the waist down. A tight, vertical close-up on Konami's eye, wide with utter shock and horror. Dia looks back calmly as a piece of her arm shatters and falls away. A horrified Konami calls out Dia's name in confusion as the Guardian stands nearby. Bleeding from the mouth, Dia's eyes are wide with shock as she thinks of holy magic. A massive explosion of holy light erupts from Dia, catching Konami by surprise. The Guardian Tiada's shadowy form is violently blasted apart by the burst of holy energy. A tight close-up shows Konami's eye, wide with shock at the immense power unleashed. Now fully healed, Dia stares in disbelief, stunned by her own latent magical ability. On his knees, Konami looks at his hands, realizing he feels a strange sensation. A close-up on his status screen confirms his MP has been completely depleted to 0. Konami watches as the Guardian's shadowy form begins to regenerate from the damage. With a look of intense, grim determination, Konami prepares for a final, decisive move. Stylized text announces the name of Konami's ultimate attack, Dimension Blade. Dia unleashes a massive barrage of divine arrows, filling the entire corridor. Konami's armored vambrace cracks as he blocks a powerful, stray magical blast. Dia looks on in shock, questioning her own indiscriminate use of magic. A tight close-up on Konami's focused eye, observing the chaotic attack. The shadowy Guardian, Tiada, leaps gracefully, dodging the homing light projectiles. With a determined look, Dia unleashes her divine arrows, filled with killing intent. Beams of light converge on Tiada as it continues to evade the attack. Konami's eyes are wide with a sudden, intense realization and approval. Blood pours from Dia's mouth as she pushes her unknown magic too far. Konami clenches his fist, questioning his role before resolving to act. Konami, holding 2 daggers, shouts with fierce determination and defiance. An abstract flash of light and energy streaks across the panel. Konami looks back in surprise, surrounded by strange, floating bubble-like spheres. A close-up on Konami's face, his eye wide with shocked realization. Konami stands alone in a dark, gridded space, questioning the magical interference. The shadowy Guardian, Tiada, dodges through a complex structure of light beams. Konami looks on with grim focus, realizing he cannot catch his target. Battered and exhausted, Konami realizes this is their final chance to attack. Tiada's shadowy form moves through a storm of magic, dismissing Konami's chances. Surrounded by beams of light, Tiada prepares to launch its next attack. The shadowy Guardian is struck by powerful, intersecting slashes of white energy. Tiada's form is suspended amidst beams of light, feeling a purifying effect. The Guardian endures the light, expressing a sense of nostalgia for the magic. Konami's foot lands firmly on the ground, showing his determined forward movement. Konami dashes forward as the Guardian dodges the light, surprised by his approach. A close-up on the Guardian's swirling head as it begins to address Konami. Abstract, sharp lines indicate a weapon being formed with magical energy. Konami lunges with a dagger, clashing against the Guardian's newly formed blade arm. With a look of intense concentration, Konami declares his intent to freeze it. The Guardian joyfully morphs its arm into a whip, striking down at Konami. The Guardian Tiada's body warps and shifts, fluidly dodging an attack. A close-up on Tiada's swirling, fluid head, showing its shape-shifting nature. Konami knows this won't be an easy victory, but his battle calculation can guide the enemy. His world shifts to a wireframe grid, revealing the Guardian's every possible move. The Guardian's own energy converges on his position, erupting in a blinding flash. He dives out of the blast, finding cover behind the smoking crater's edge. He realizes he must use the monster's own power in a way it expects. The shadowy Guardian writhes, vowing it will not fall for such a familiar trick. The Guardian recalls seeing this tactic before, anticipating his feint in Dia's attack. Konami grunts, realizing his complex strategy has been completely figured out by the monster. The Guardian is suddenly surprised, sensing a new, powerful surge of magic from above. He challenges the monster with a new plan, slamming his hands onto the ground. It realizes Konami is not one to rely on a simple trap to win. He stares with fierce resolve, ready to unleash his next unexpected attack upon his foe. He roars, unleashing a massive, explosive barrage of razor-sharp ice crystals at the monster. The Guardian easily slices through the ice attack, effortlessly shattering the magical blizzard. With his mana completely depleted, he desperately tries to will his magic to work. Bloodied and exhausted, he screams his defiance, vowing to end the fight right now. The last of his strength finally fails him, and he collapses onto the floor. He groans, defeated, the immense strain of the battle finally taking its toll. The guardian looms over him, mocking him because his magic has finally run out. It lectures that a strong will cannot overcome the absolute physical limits of the body. A tear falls as the guardian declares this the inescapable ultimate limit of humanity. With a furious scream, Dia charges forward, her sword deflecting the guardian's killing blow. The guardian makes a soft sound of surprise as its attack is unexpectedly blocked. Konami looks up, a predatory grin on his face, wondering how far he can push this. Enraged by his sheer insolence, the guardian roars, demanding to know his intentions. Dia screams, pushing forward, knowing she just needs a little more time to succeed. Konami roars in encouragement, urging her to use every last bit of her strength. The guardian sees her desperate move as a suicide attack and prepares its counter. Their weapons meet in a tremendous, earth-shattering clash of overwhelming power and will. With one final desperate push, Dia's sword completely shatters the guardian's massive weapon. The monster's powerful blade explodes into 1,000 glittering shards of light and shadow. The guardian demands to know their next move, baffled by their seemingly pointless sacrifice. Konami appears in the air, dimension blade drawn, the guardian now perfectly in place. Konami holds his sword up, blocking an attack with intense, focused eyes. Konami's hand grips his enchanted blade, driving it forward. He plunges his sword deep into the guardian's swirling, shadowy core. The dark energy crystallizes around the blade, then shatters completely. The guardian whispers that both their wishes have now been fulfilled. Its monstrous body disintegrates into a storm of crystalline shards. Utterly spent from the final attack, Konami collapses to the floor. He struggles to push himself up, his body trembling with exhaustion. Blood drips from his nose, a testament to his immense strain. He pants heavily, forcing out the words of their shared victory. A blood-stained, weary grin spreads across his face as he confirms it. The guardian's voice chuckles, acknowledging him as the one to grant its wish. A final crystal fragment falls, whispering a thank you before it vanishes. Konami wonders if his own wish was granted, perhaps by Alti. A soft, sickening thud echoes from across the vast chamber. He kneels, thinking to himself that the victory felt surprisingly easy. A single dark sphere, the guardian's heart rolls to a quiet stop. He stares at the defeated guardian, wondering if his wish will be granted. Suddenly, his eyes snap open, wide with dawning horror. He screams his partner's name across the silent, empty hall. Dia lies unmoving in a spreading pool of the guardian's dark blood. Her face is pale and still, with blood staining her lips. He scrambles to her side, relieved to find she is still breathing. He understands that he must get her medical attention immediately. His eyes are wide with fear and a desperate, frantic urgency. His entire world narrows to her still, wounded form. He tells the unconscious Dia that it's okay, that he defeated it. Lifting her onto his back, he promises they will go home together. A flashback begins, revealing a newborn baby with tiny feathered wings. A young girl in a nun's habit in Biraru Field looks deeply sad. The scene shifts to a small, remote village nestled in the hills. A priest praises her wonderful barrier magic, calling her Sisama. The elderly priest smiles warmly, clearly proud of her power. She gratefully thanks the priest, who took her in as an abandoned child. The priest walks with her, promising to tell her stories after his work. He explains he named her Sis, after a legendary winged apostle of God. She listens as he tells her how wonderful and special her existence is. Villagers bow deeply, thanking the revered Sis Sama for her protection. A woman offers a basket of fresh vegetables in gratitude for her help. The priest accepts the gift on her behalf, apologizing for the bother. Sis watches the exchange, her expression distant and deeply uncertain. She stands apart from the others, a lonely figure under a tall tree. Her eyes are shadowed, a faint, heartbreaking smile on her lips. She says Tiara's protection helped her fulfill her duty as Apostle Sis. Her power, she recalls with a heavy heart, was a true miracle. The villagers celebrate her healing, their deep-seated fear of her forgotten. From the church pews, they offer endless thanks for her divine gifts. Even her own parents kneel, begging her to heal her husband's injuries. She weeps in the memory, knowing it did not take long to change. Her disembodied voice simply says, "Of course." A great and powerful nation soon moved to claim her for itself. The priest explains the invitation to the festival is a great honor. She understood it was a tribute to the country she could not refuse. The priest says her parents must surely be very proud of her. The image of her parents kneeling before her flashes in her mind. Her eyes fill with tears as she begins to say her name. She closes her eyes, accepting her unavoidable fate. Her eyes snap open again, now hollow and utterly empty. She became a holy spectacle, sent wherever the powerful needed her. She was a curiosity for nobles and a tool for wealthy merchants. If a miracle was wished for, she would spread her wings and heal. She lost sight of her purpose, unsure of what she had become. Priests try to control the desperate crowd as they plead with Sisama. A mother kneels before her, holding a deathly ill child. The mother desperately begs her to save the child from his sickness. Her attendants are horrified, declaring her a sacred, untouchable being. Sis floats down towards the desperate mother and her ailing son. She gently places a warm, healing hand upon the sick child. The boy's eyes flutter open, his terrible fever having vanished. He looks to his mother, confused, asking her what happened. Sis looks up at the mother with a kind, gentle expression. The mother cries tears of joy, thanking Sis over and over again. Sis smiles warmly, embracing the healed child in a tight hug. After begging the country's rulers, she was finally allowed to go home. She returns to find her village is as peaceful as she remembers. A small, hopeful smile appears as she sees everyone seems well. She spots a small house on a hill, recognizing it as her own. She quietly wonders if she can get just a little bit closer to see. She sees her parents laughing with a happy, healthy young boy. They praise the boy, calling him reliable and their family's pride. Watching from a distance, Dia's expression shatters with heartbreak. Her mouth hangs open in a silent, soul-crushing gasp of pain. Floating in darkness, she asks the uncaring void, "And what about me?" She questions if all her struggles meant nothing to her parents. A village girl looks at her blankly, asking her who she is. A sliver of light shines between the dark trunks of nearby trees. Dia stands in the woods, trying to introduce herself to the villagers. They see her and immediately bow, reverently calling her Sis Sama. Her little brother asks his mother if she knows the pretty lady. Her mother looks at her with a polite but completely distant smile. She introduces Dia as Sis Sama, the apostle sent from the heavens. The false title echoes in Dia's mind, a devastating, painful lie. A sharp, diagonal panel transition marks a break in the memory. In her subconscious, she screams that her mother's wrong. Her face is a mask of pure anguish and desperate denial. Clutching her chest, she insists that she is not the apostle Sis. She screams that her true name is Diaprosis, not some holy figure. Crying, she begs to be seen for who she is, to be smiled at. Her eyes are wide with a desperate, tear-filled pleading. Her parents cling to their son, whispering apologies over and over. Dia stands alone, watching the family that casts her out. Dia's mind fractures as she cries, repeating that it's wrong and begging forgiveness. The world dissolves into a blur of chaotic, streaking lines and fractured memories. A precious hairpin tumbles through the air as Kanami shields Dia from danger. A fleeting, happy memory of the adventurer Clow in the tavern flashes by. The memory shows the hairpin being struck away by the clash of swords. The vision lingers on the adventurers, laughing and drinking together at the tavern. Kanami's boot slams onto the stone floor, a decisive and heavy step forward. Stark shadows highlight his sword, his ready hand, and his firm fighting stance. Dia falls through darkness, screaming out and questioning her own identity as someone watches. Tears stream down Kanami's face as he confesses that this outcome was his wish. A memory of his co-worker Rin's smile is cut short by Chloe's frantic shouts. Kanami, his expression grim, turns his head slightly toward the unconscious Dia. He runs, screaming Dia's name in anguish as he carries her limp body. He gasps that the town is in sight, urging her to hold on longer. He pushes through the woods, pleading for her to endure just a little more. Kanami apologizes to the bandaged Dia, saying he's the one who involved her. He confesses that he was the one who truly wanted to go to the labyrinth. Crying, he admits his cowardice led him to foolishly desire something more. Dia tearfully begs him to stop, repeating her own apologies for everything. Her expression softens into gratitude as she thanks him for bringing her along. She explains that his first step was what allowed her to be brave. With tears of gratitude, she triumphantly cries out her own name, "Dia!" Kanami's hand tightens around the hilt of his sword with renewed purpose. He holds the enchanted sword he gifted her, its blade gleaming brightly. He stands with the blade, its powerful status effect partially visible beside him. His eyes are filled with a new, unwavering, and serious determination. Standing on the ruined balcony, he calls out Dia's name, ready for what's next. Dia rests peacefully in a bed as a voice begins to explain her situation. An old doctor states bluntly that her lost right arm cannot be restored. From the doorway, Kanami quietly acknowledges the grim news as Dia sleeps. The doctor explains the wound is too severe for even the best treatment. His face patched up, Kanami somberly says he understands the harsh reality. He wonders about this world's medical limits, hoping magic might be different. He grimly concludes that even in this world, magic is not omnipotent. He recalls seeing other explorers in the tavern who had also lost limbs. He clenches his fist, determined that Dia will not suffer the same fate. The doctor informs him that her remaining scars should heal without any issue. However, he continues, the blood loss has caused mana deficiency syndrome. With magic and a special diet, a full recovery should take about a week. Konami recalls reading about the link between mana and blood at the library. The doctor coughs, preparing to deliver one final, more delicate piece of news. He warns that the mental shock from losing her arm is a great concern. A prosthetic might help, but the shock to an explorer like her will be severe. The doctor advises him to think carefully about what they will do next. The doctor asks about Konami's own well-being, but he dismisses the concern. He claims to be dejected for unrelated reasons, offering no further explanation. He walks down the long, silent hallway, his footsteps echoing softly. Pausing at her door, he turns back to ask the old doctor something. His eyes widen in sudden, startled realization at what he sees inside. Dia is awake, sitting up in bed and greeting him with a gentle smile. She cheerfully asks if he's awake, noting she was asleep for several days. He smiles, relieved beyond words just to see that she seems to be okay. She suddenly remembers her hairpin and asks hopefully if he picked it up. She laughs with pure relief, so glad that he didn't end up losing it. He holds out the simple ribbon. The ornate, precious clasp is now gone. His expression falls, a stark representation of his feeling of failure. Dia's smile falters as she quietly accepts that the hairpin is broken. He thinks to himself that they are both now battered and broken things. He offers to tie the simple ribbon in her hair, surprising her completely. He tells her to turn, mentioning he used to do this for his sister. She asks about his sister, and he flinches, realizing his accidental slip-up. She intuits that his sister is sick, his true reason for entering the labyrinth. He admits he thought he could help, but magic proved to be useless. He wistfully wonders how things might have been if he had magic back home. He then brings up the subject of her own powerful and hidden holy magic. He casts a small cureful spell, a ball of light hovering between them. Dia looks down and apologizes to Sieg for keeping her magic a secret. He tells her it's okay, as he already knew she had high aptitude. She grips her bandaged arm, calling her reason for hiding it trivial. He tells her it's fine to save it for emergencies from now on. She cuts him off with a firm and resolute no. Clenching her fist, she declares with powerful conviction that she will use it. She stares intensely, saying she has decided to use it whenever necessary. Her sudden, fierce declaration leaves Konami completely flustered and blushing. She quickly tries to reassure him that it's not because of her arm. She explains this is simply the resolve needed to explore the labyrinth. He argues it must be hard for her, since her dominant arm was her sword arm. He trails off, telling her that the sword is fine now, releasing her. She brightens, declaring she'll just specialize in magic, her ultimate trump card. Konami is utterly bewildered, asking what she means by this sudden change. She explains with a sharp look that she was simply too stubborn before. Now she sees that magic seems like a perfectly good path to follow. He wonders if this sudden shift is a sign of a mental breakdown. She suggests they rest and use the time to reevaluate their strategy. He remembers the bill and quickly tells her that it has been paid. He excitedly explains that Tiada's magic stone sold for a huge fortune. He says it was the purest, highest quality stone anyone had ever seen. Dia listens calmly, saying she's sure one of his goals was met. She smiles and says that now she is the one who relies on Sieg. He is confused, protesting that he thought she needed the money. She says she doesn't need it now, offering him her share to use. Konami is left speechless, not knowing how to react to this new Dia. She asks if he is ready to talk, and he sits on her bed. She tells him to wait for her, promising she will return to him soon. He tells her he will stop exploring the labyrinth if she is not there. She is shocked, protesting that he would surely be fine exploring alone. He concedes that he probably could continue on his own if he wanted. She admits she was always suspicious why someone so strong partnered with her. She tells him that if he's fine, he should test her out again. She demands he decide once and for all if he truly needs her. Konami stands resolute, his bandaged face a mask of silent, grim determination. He reflects on his indecision, knowing that true resolve is a choice he must make. He tells Dia he must continue his journey alone, and she hides her sadness. She understands he has his own purpose, and he quietly thanks her for it. Dia then offers him a sword, claiming she no longer has any use for it. She sits on the bed, smiling wistfully while holding the ornate sword he gifted her. He hesitates, asking if she is truly certain about parting with the treasured weapon. She wants the sword to protect him in her absence, a comforting final thought. He accepts, promising to hold on to the precious blade for her until they meet again. With a determined expression, Konami accepts the weight of her trust in the sword. He walks out into the blinding light of the courtyard, leaving the shadows behind. From the window, Dia watches him leave, whispering his name in a desperate plea. Her hand presses against the cold glass, a silent, fragile gesture of her longing. She makes a solemn vow that she will be the one who protects Sieg. Her resolve intensifies, promising she will absolutely protect him as the glass cracks. Her shocked face is reflected in the fracturing glass as her world shatters around her. The window explodes into a cascade of sharp shards, her reality breaking apart. Her eye widens with a fierce, almost manic light as her new purpose solidifies. A system message appears announcing that her skill, overprotection, has run rampant. It explains her emotions will be exchanged to strengthen her overwhelming protectiveness. In another place, a story is told of a great dragon protecting its kingdom. But the dragon grew weak from constant battle, as the kingdom's legends tell. The people believed that a pure soul was needed to heal their ailing guardian. A nameless girl, the dragon's caretaker, was the one who finally spoke up. Lastiara reads how the dragon's wounds healed, its body restored to majestic strength. A sudden flash of steel slices cleanly through a lock of her long white hair. She looks out over the glittering cityscape, her expression lost in deep thought. She muses on the fate of the nameless caretaker, feeling a strange, distant connection. Beneath a sky full of stars, a grand cathedral stands silent in the night. A man named Hein smirks, surprised to be receiving a request for a favor. Hein explains that for a delicate task like this, there is no one else to ask. He asks the masked man, Parinkuron, if he is not an expert in such matters. Parinkuron's confident gaze confirms that things like this are indeed his specialty. In a candlelit hall, Hopes smirks, accepting a compliment as he snuffs a flame. His expression hardens, confirming with a gruff, "yeah," that he is ready for action. A voice questions if the two younger knights are plotting some kind of mischief together. Moan playfully asks his hooded companion if he plans to startle the formidable knight, Sarah. Hopes admits his fear, shuddering at the thought of the intimidating woman they call a guard dog. Moan laughs cruelly, wishing to see her scream, earning a deadpan warning of his demise. A blonde knight interrupts, sternly telling them to spare him the trouble of their bickering. He insists that their casual banter has gone too far and is entirely inappropriate. With a grand gesture, he reminds them they are the celestial knights and should act accordingly. His comrades groan, having heard this lecture on the chivalrous way to treat women before. Hopes tips his hat, cheerfully leaving the others to handle the ongoing sermon on their own. He waves goodbye, announcing he has an errand to run, ignoring their protests. The blonde knight is left sputtering in shocked disbelief at being so blatantly ignored. One of the remaining retainers sighs, telling the other to pull himself together as the elder. Hope slips into the darkened alleys of the city, his true mission now underway. Alone, he murmurs that his first step is to observe the movements of his target. He performs a brief, intrusive magical scan on the unsuspecting person below. The magic reveals a slender, black-haired boy with a distinct burn scar on his cheek. In a flash of insight, Hope's eye snaps wide with a shocking, profound realization. He understands with absolute certainty that this boy is the one he's been looking for. Konami touches his own scar, quietly lost in a memory of what happened. His level 10 status is displayed as a shopkeeper wishes him well for the future. He walks into the night, realizing he spent far too much time upgrading his gear. He recalls Dia's words, but knows being over-prepared for the labyrinth is never a mistake. After defeating Tiata, his level has risen, and he has no intention of slowing down. He remembers Dia's terrible wound. Thankful he escaped the fight without similar after effects. A blush of shame appears on his cheek. He knows it was all thanks to Dia. The battle caused his chaos value to spike, a power both helpful and dangerously unstable. His expression hardens as he looks toward the horizon, his resolve becoming a tangible thing. He vows to control his strange skill and reach the 100th floor completely on his own. He is no longer the helpless boy thrown into this world. He now has confidence. He realizes his fear of being alone, his own weakness, is what nearly killed Dia. He understands now that he needs more than just a high level. He needs strength of heart. A booming voice calls out to a bewildered Konami in the bustling night market. A boisterous vendor aggressively offers him sizzling grilled meat, calling him Big Bro. Konami agrees, asking him to be quieter, but the vendor is simply thrilled. He then asks the vendor if there is an apothecary nearby for medicine. The man points the way, and Konami expresses his thanks with relief. A playful voice startles him. It is Alti, calling him Big Bro as well. His face contorts in absolute terror at the sight of the familiar monster. He bolts in a blind panic, sprinting away down the dark city street. The vendor shouts that he forgot his food as Alti watches unimpressed. The vendor asks if she knows him, and she offers to deliver it. With a confident smile, she assures the vendor he can leave it to her. Konami ducks into a dark alley, hiding behind a crate to catch his breath. He panics, realizing the guardian Tiada's companion is here in the city. He wonders why she has left the labyrinth, as a voice speaks from above. Recognizing the voice, he prepares to unleash his powerful dimension magic in defense. With a grimace of effort, he readies his ultimate skill, his only hope. Alti appears above him, telling him to calm down. She has no hostility. She then presents the food container, explaining that he simply forgot his purchase. He recognizes her title, the 10th Guardian, a being of unimaginable power. He cautiously approaches her, asking if she has come here to fight him. He angrily accuses her of trapping him with the fearsome monster, Tiada. Alti offers a tiny, almost sarcastic apology for his troubles, which he questions. She pouts, admitting she is shocked that his impression of her is so bad. She tells him not to take it so seriously. Fighting is just what happens. She insists she is different from Tiada and doesn't actually care about monsters. With a brilliant smile, she kicks her feet and tells him to relax. He argues that he can't possibly relax, especially before heading to the labyrinth. She reassures him again, adding that exploring will be easy with her as a companion. Konami is left utterly speechless and bewildered by her sudden declaration of partnership. She takes a huge bite of his food, saying bosses will be easy now. As she happily eats, Konami waves his hands, frantically telling her to wait. He demands to know why she's making herself his companion, calling it impossible. Seeing his lack of trust, she decides she must prove her good intentions through actions. Holding a chunk of ice, the bandaged girl spontaneously decides to help explore the labyrinth. Konami reluctantly offers a piece of dried meat, saying it's his. Alti dismisses it, stating he can't possibly fight with her behind him. She insists she's fine in the vanguard, as she's quite skilled with a sword. That's not the issue, he snaps, his patience clearly wearing thin. He explains that her presence creates a combat state, ruining his labyrinth exploration. Perched high above, Alti thoughtfully considers his words under the starry sky. She suddenly appears beside him, declaring this is a serious problem for her. Walking away, she states that establishing a relationship of trust is paramount. She smiles sweetly, promising to stay by his side for years if needed. Konami is deeply unnerved, unable to read her intentions and wanting no part of this. He feels that even conversing with her leaves a lingering sense of anxiety. The guardian Tiada appears, asking if it should just defeat Konami, the boss now. Ignoring the guardian, Alti pleads that she just wants Konami to trust her. He is taken aback by her mention of having a wish. A memory flashes of the guardian's core shattering, a wish being fulfilled. Alti turns the question back on him, asking if he possesses a wish too. She eagerly presses him, asking if he will at least hear her out. Konami's expression hardens, his eyes narrowing with newfound resolve in the dark. Drawing his sword, he agrees only to listen, hoping to confirm his suspicions. Alti smiles knowingly, saying that for now his terms are perfectly acceptable. She leads him away, promising that this will be an interesting story for him. Her expression turns serious as she reveals it's a story about killing a guardian. Konami is visibly shocked by her sudden, grim revelation. Alti explains she was always suspicious of what happens when a guardian's trial ends. Konami realizes with horror that if the trial is gone, the guardians disappear. He now understands why the near-immortal Tiada died so easily after their battle. He wonders if the Labyrinth Conquest Union knows this terrible truth. Alti brings the focus back to herself, stating that this is her own wish. She pauses for dramatic effect, beginning to explain her one desire. Her wish, she reveals with a smile, is to make a love come true. The scene shifts, showing the towering, ancient trees of the labyrinth's third stratum. A vicious, wolf-like creature with a thorny tail snarls in the undergrowth. The beast stalks Konami from the shadows as he walks a forest path. It leaps from behind a tree with a ferocious hiss, taking Konami by surprise. Alti appears in a flash, grabbing the monster's snout with one bandaged hand. She leaps gracefully, flinging the massive beast aside with incredible ease. Landing perfectly, she catches a small box that had been knocked into the air. Alti smiles sweetly, holding up the small bento box she just saved. "Hey, Sieg!" she calls out cheerfully, presenting the box for him to see. Konami stares at her, his expression completely blank and unimpressed. He deadpans that she's amazing as she looks on, deflated and annoyed. She pouts, asking if he isn't being a bit cold to his collaborator. He says she can praise herself, since she's a guardian and naturally strong. She chides his poor vocabulary. suggesting he should read a book sometime. She laughs it off as he rubs his forehead, clearly exasperated by her antics. He sighs to himself, thinking what a pain she is to deal with. Back in the alley, Konami stammers, trying to process her wish about love's fulfillment. Leaning casually against a wall, Alti asks him what he thinks of her idea. She tips her hat, asking again if her wish isn't a rather romantic one. Konami can only stare, his face a mask of complete and utter shock. His shock quickly twists into an expression of extreme annoyance and disbelief. Alti casually mentions that Tieta's wish was simply to have a deathmatch. Konami is overwhelmed by the sheer difference in the scale of their desires. He finally asks the crucial question, whose love is she trying to fulfill? He points accusingly, asking if the wish is for her own love life. Alti admits she would like that, but sadly it's no longer possible for her. She explains that she is no longer a being who is capable of falling in love. So, she wants to introduce him to someone who has already fallen in love. She believes that if she can see their love through to the end, she will finally be able to feel satisfied with her long existence. Konami mutters to himself that this is nothing more than a vulgar, meddlesome story. Alti muses that her wish is shady, but she's the same as Tieta. The statement hits Konami. He realizes she means she is also a guardian. Alti laments the idea of dying without ever having known love as a girl. Konami questions her, asking if she even is a girl and how old she is. She admits she's lived for at least 1,000 years, perhaps even longer. The realization of her own age seems to genuinely surprise her for a moment. Konami mockingly prays for her success, calling her grandma just to annoy her. "Don't call a lovely girl like me grandma," she explodes in a fit of rage. Konami recoils in terror as she lectures him about how to treat a lady. Alti glares at him, her cheeks puffed out in a frustrated pout. Konami looks away, flustered and embarrassed by her sudden, intense outburst. He retorts that of course he treats her like a monster, not a woman. He trails off, blushing, about to say something more before being cut off. "Sig, watch out!" Alti's desperate scream shatters the moment as a monster lunges. Konami instinctively throws himself backward, narrowly dodging the surprise attack. Alti's expression is now cold and serious. She understands something crucial. She declares she put him in danger on purpose to test his words. Her eyes narrow with intense focus, determined to ascertain the truth for herself. She leaps over him in a blur of motion, intercepting the monster's attack. The color of her eyes changed. Konami realizes she was testing his reaction. He understands she was aiming for a gap in his attack to test him. His eyes widen as he processes her calculated betrayal in the heat of battle. They now stand back to back, united against a common enemy, despite the test. Alti rushes forward with a fierce grin, ready to dispatch the beast. She prepares a powerful attack, warning the monster not to interfere with them. Her blast of dark energy erupts as a warning to stay out of her way. Konami is caught in the blast's shockwave, sent flying backward by the raw power. Alti turns, her voice filled with genuine concern, asking if he's all right. Konami looks up, a bead of sweat on his face, shaken but still alive. Sitting on the ground, he assures her he's fine and thanks her. Alti looks at her bandaged hand, a faint glow emanating from it. She teases him, saying it's a shame he was rescued so quickly. She smiles gently, reminding him it's natural for comrades to help each other. Konami looks down, a tear of gratitude escaping as he quietly agrees. He stands, finally accepting her offer, acknowledging that Alti is a monster guardian. Alti is surprised, asking why he's not acting like that person anymore. He explains that acting childish and always needing to be saved is pathetic. With a small, genuine smile, he says he will trust her a little now. Alti muses that his display of trust is no different than a beastman's. Alti looks at her companion, stating that they are both people and monsters. Konami, his scarred face and profile, listens intently to her profound declaration. He closes his eyes and sighs, quietly conceding that she is right. He accepts their nature, while Alti cheerfully offers to take the lead in battle. They arrive at the staircase plaza between the 5th and 6th floors. Konami's expression remains troubled as he looks ahead into the deeper levels. They find a moment of rest in a sparse, empty safe room. The stone walls of their temporary sanctuary are cold and impersonal. Alti notes his restlessness, but he assures her the guardian Tieta is gone. He tries to guarantee their safety, but his confidence wavers under her gaze. He walks on, his mind consumed with helpless worry over Dia's injured arm. Alti asks if he means the girl Dia, making him voice his darkest fear. His eyes widen in horror as he realizes she has likely been swallowed. He asks what that means, and Alti explains the labyrinth itself is the culprit. He notes the lack of corpses, and she confirms the dead are quickly absorbed. Alti finds this a bit scary, but Konami is grimly grateful for the cleanliness. With a loud crack, the floor shatters, and Alti screams as they fall. After landing, they hear another scream, and Alti wonders what to do. Konami hesitates, thinking that offering help so easily could be a mistake. A close-up shows Alti's sharp, knowing eyes watching his internal conflict. She tells him to just go help if he's going to look so pained. He turns to her, his face a mask of indecision, asking for her opinion. Alti explains with a shrug that helping people is, of course, a good thing. Her eye narrows as she adds a single sharp word of caution. However, she warns him that helping someone means taking responsibility until the very end. He must be careful not to make a mistake by overstepping his own limits. Seeing his stunned reaction, she playfully chides him for being too proper. She grabs his arm, declaring she will only help him, no other human. A genuine smile breaks on his face as he agrees to go help them. Alti watches him leave, her expression turning enigmatic and thoughtful. She murmurs in agreement as he runs up the stairs into the darkness. Her unspoken thought trails off, acknowledging that he is just as she suspected. Konami reaches the top, only to find the hall empty but for a distant silhouette. With a faint, knowing smile, Konami activates his reality-bending dimension magic. His senses perceive a giant monster and 4 people caught in its web. A girl named Asace lands in a splash of water, her arrival questioned. Konami casts Silver Platter, creating an ice path for his new ally, Rainer. A friend screams Rainer's name in terror as a shadow monster attacks. The party's cat girl grits her teeth, frustrated by her inability to help. Asace can only watch the unfolding horror, her face completely stunned. A boy named Liner is caught by the monster, screaming defiantly as tentacles envelop him. He struggles futilely, his body completely overwhelmed by the creature's crushing grip. The monster's sharp, dripping beak descends upon the captured, helpless Liner. Liner's face is a mask of pure terror in his final silent moments. Rainer is suddenly thrown backward through the air as her friend screams her name. The cat girl rushes to her aid, pleading with her mistress not to be reckless. She desperately warns that it is far too dangerous to fight the monster alone. She stops dead in her tracks, letting out a surprised "Nya?" at the sight. Konami glides in on his ice path, his body a blur of motion. He shouts that he will provide support and assures them he is not an enemy. The monster's bell-shaped limb smashes the ground where Rainer was moments before. Rainer lands safely, only to face a new set of tentacles erupting before her. Liner stares in wide-eyed shock, a single tear tracing a path down his cheek. Konami becomes a whirlwind of steel, deflecting every tentacle aimed at the fallen boy. His blade glows, creating brilliant sparks as it repels the monster's powerful assault. He moves with impossible grace, his sword a blur as he defends the vulnerable Liner. Konami lands in a defensive crouch, the ground smoking from the deflected attacks. He turns to the boy he just saved, asking if he is all right. Rainer sits on the ground, gasping as Liner confirms that he is okay. Konami rises, confidently telling the others to leave the rest of the fight to him. Rainer watches him, speechless and in awe of this stranger's incredible power. The monster's core emerges, lashing out with sharp, whip-like tendrils. Konami faces the hulking beast, calmly acknowledging its truly massive size. A sharp, confident grin spreads across his face. This challenge is just right. He recalls Dia's parting words, her complete faith in his ability to fight alone. He traps the beast in ice, leaping into the air to deliver the final blow. Konami leaps through the air, determined to defeat the monster by himself. A blonde adventurer, caught in the fray, stares with an expression of pure shock. Konami catches the boy mid-air, quickly asking if he is all right. Another companion tumbles past, apologizing and shouting for them to hold on tight. He faces the true enemy, a hard-shelled, ammonite-like creature of writhing tentacles. The monster's heavy appendages lash out with a sharp, deadly quickness. Konami summons a massive crystalline point of light, a wall of ice blocking the attack. With a powerful cry, Konami swings his greatsword in a wide, forceful arc. The impact creates a blinding, silent dome of pure white energy that expands rapidly. The resulting shockwave sends the adventurers flying amidst the cavern's utter destruction. In a flash, the shadowy form of the monster is seen disintegrating into nothing. In the chaotic aftermath, Konami catches the blonde boy, asking if he can stand. A girl with pigtails runs toward them, desperately calling out for her brother, Rainer. Konami watches their reunion from afar, whispering that he is glad they are safe. A system window appears, awarding him the title Abyssal Darkness and a skill boost. He reflects on his journey, noting how terrifying the Guardians are for his companions. Startled, he turns around as a hesitant voice calls out to him. The party he just saved stands before him, looking on with awe. Konami, caught off guard by the attention, stammers, unsure of how to respond. He explains that he only intervened because they appeared to be in grave danger. The girl insists that was not the case while her brother looks away, flustered. She thanks him profusely, amazed that he defeated the monster in a single blow. With sparkling eyes, she eagerly asks if he would be willing to share his name. Her brother Reiner is completely overcome with a blushing, stuttering embarrassment. A cat boy in their party lets out a gleeful, unrestrained laugh at the scene. The stoic horned woman of the group watches the interaction in silence. Internally, Konami thinks to himself that this whole situation seems like a huge pain. The girl pleads again, asking if she can hear his story in a dripping cavern. He tries to leave, saying he isn't important and that it would be a hassle. Before he can escape, the girl's hand shoots out and firmly grabs his arm. With wide, desperate eyes, she insists that he must tell her his name. Resigned to his fate, Konami reluctantly tells her that his name is Sieg. Her face lights up with pure adoration as she reverently repeats his name. Surrounded by roses, a girl proclaims the name Sieg is beautiful, shocking her companions. He observes the chaotic nobles, concluding they are a bunch of no-good people. Deciding to avoid trouble, he turns to slip away before he gets involved. A flicker of conscience stops him, telling him that walking away is wrong. A sudden flash of heat from a torch forces him to yelp, alerting them. Alti confronts him, questioning his earlier words about seeing things through. He is confused by her accusation, but she insists he has helped them. A cloaked figure states that the truth of the matter is plain to see. They explain that the young noble girl wishes to thank him and won't be denied. He accuses Alti of abandoning her responsibility by forcing the situation upon him. The cloaked figure seems to ponder the implications of his pointed accusation. Alti casually advises him not to get so hung up on trivial matters. The noble girl grabs him, frantically pleading for just a moment of his time. He realizes with utter frustration that he has made a mistake and is now trapped. The group takes a break, their leader cheerfully inviting everyone to rest. Alti suggests he join them, but he has a very bad feeling about it. He overhears one of the adventurers mention that this is some kind of test. They confirm they are challenging the labyrinth as an exam for their academy. The girl, Franhel, explains her nation built the school just to study the labyrinth. He recalls seeing her country, Eltraroon, on a map west of the labyrinth. She proudly declares that her noble family requires her to become a top explorer. This labyrinth exploration, she boasts, is an exam only for the most skilled. He offers a weak compliment, hoping it means they will be fine without him. As he turns to leave, she lunges, insisting he must accept her gratitude. She cries that her family's honor is at stake if she doesn't thank him. A companion urges her brother Reiner to step in and say something. Reiner bows deeply, offering his sincere gratitude for being saved from danger. He then asks if the skilled adventurer could please reason with his stubborn sister. Konami bluntly tells him not to waste his life on a rich girl's hobby. Franhel is enraged by his insult, while her brother is horrified into silence. Reiner suggests they leave the labyrinth to properly host Konami at their home. Konami tries to politely refuse, explaining that he is in a great hurry. Reiner grabs him desperately, begging him to at least change his sister's mind. Franhel stands proudly, declaring that the honor of the Helvelshine family is at stake. A wolf-like adventurer surprises Konami and his companion with a proposition. Konami looks to the side in surprise, questioning the unexpected request. The cheerful wolf girl holds up a gold coin, offering a job. The wolf girl sits smugly, explaining her offer to a weary Konami. A girl with ornate hair enthusiastically approves of the wolf girl's suggestion. A tall, stern-looking woman observes the scene with a disapproving expression. The group reacts with mixed emotions. Konami looks stressed by the situation. Konami struggles to restrain a crying, fang-bearing Sarah, who is in a rage. A close-up of Konami holding back the frenzied Sarah, both looking alarmed. Konami tries to calm the thrashing Sarah while addressing another person off-panel. Lastiara appears behind Sarah, calmly suggesting a plan to reach the 10th floor. A weary-looking Konami turns his head, asking someone to just follow along. Lastiara stands with her back partially turned, looking over her shoulder in response. Lastiara observes with a deadpan look as Konami restrains the struggling Sarah. Konami, looking determined, explains that he feels too bad to abandon them. A cheerful girl accepts an offer as Konami holds the defeated Sarah down. The girl gushes excitedly, asking Konami to be her knight, which he denies. A serious young man introduces himself, vowing to be his lady's shield. A cheerful girl with reddish hair and pointed ears introduces herself energetically. A calm woman with long hair is shown in profile, introducing herself. A young noble girl with wide, adoring eyes introduces herself to Konami. Konami smirks to himself at night, finding the situation amusingly easy. A small chibi Konami complains internally that the test is a joke. Konami's calm expression shatters into one of shock and disbelief. Konami holds the girl as shadowy monsters suddenly swarm around them. A massive, multi-eyed shadow monster forms, alarming the other adventurers. The girl thanks Konami while blushing as he panics internally. Lastiara calmly directs her panicked party against a bat-like monster on the ceiling. A young man with a shield tells Konami to run while he acts as a decoy. Konami looks down in shock, calling out the name of his panicked companion. The back of the young man is shown as he makes a polite request. The young man earnestly asks a favor, causing Konami and Dia to react with comedic distress. A close-up of Konami's horrified expression as he rejects the request, shocking Dia. A warrior is restrained by his companion, who insists they can't win. Konami watches the unfolding chaos, utterly exasperated by Erna and her companions. The wolf-eared warrior pauses mid-fight, sensing he is being watched from afar. Hiding, Konami notes he can't help and observes Snow's completely detached stance. The horned woman, Snow Walker, lets out an elegant and supremely bored yawn. Her eyes flash open in an instant, suddenly aware of an immediate threat. A vicious, bat-like monster appears from nowhere, lunging directly at her face. With a single casual motion, she unleashes a shockwave that obliterates the creature. The force of her powerful attack tears through the air with devastating impact. Her status screen appears as she calmly confirms she was already aware of it. She notes her high level while Erna struggles with the flailing, protesting Rainer. Snow informs her companion that she is retreating, leaving the rest to him. Konami realizes his true job is to babysit this hopelessly dysfunctional adventuring party. Despite the chaos, the group has somehow managed to achieve its initial objective. With a look of grim determination, Konami steels himself to see this through. He charges forward just as a massive, monstrous dragon emerges from the darkness. Their perilous journey through the dungeon's depths continues in a blur of motion. They finally arrive at the 10th floor, a grand hall lined with black flames. A hand carefully uncorks a small glass vial over the ethereal black fire. The party watches intently as the potion is used on the magical flames. Snow holds the swirling potion, her gaze fixed and serious on the path ahead. The young lady cheers triumphantly, declaring that they finally did it, Lord Sieg. She proclaims the test is cleared thanks to Sieg, just as he collapses. He deflects her praise, reminding her that Rainer was on the verge of death. Konami quietly reflects on the many overwhelming hardships he must constantly endure. The princess scolds Rainer for his behavior, and he shouts for her to leave him alone. The wolf-eared warrior gratefully thanks Konami for his help during the fight. When asked if she is their companion, Snow coldly replies she is only there. The very idea of being a true companion seems utterly alien to her. Konami observes the bickering, thinking what a truly dysfunctional party they are. The princess eagerly grabs his arm, asking him to be her escort now. She excitedly invites him to the Helvion estate for a thank-you dinner. Looking pained, Konami apologizes, saying he has business and cannot escort her. Flustered, she insists she cannot possibly ask for anything more from her savior. The Helvelshine sisters offer their aid, telling Sieg to rely on them anytime. Konami thanks the departing group, who invite him to visit the academy. A cat-like boy winks, warning Sieg not to be so easily deceived. The long-haired woman bluntly suggests he should find a new profession. Waving goodbye, the girl invites him to their home in Fujiyazu's 3rd district. Now that they are gone, Konami sighs, completely drained from the encounter. A flicker of understanding crosses his face as he quietly agrees with himself. His quiet contemplation is broken by a sudden, violent impact just ahead. A silhouette of pure, chaotic energy slams into the ground before him. Konami watches as the fiery being stands before him in the aftermath. He watches as the dark flaming figure completes its powerful descent. The dark flames dissipate, revealing a small girl wrapped like a mummy. She winks playfully, remarking how nice it is to have a consistent body. She tells him to come back as a proper person, tossing his cloak. She playfully holds his cloak, noting how Sieg isn't a very honest person. Looking around her domain, Konami admits he feels strangely unsettled here. Alti explains the unsettling feeling is sharp, just like what's inside him. He realizes with horror that this strange place is somehow inside of him. She clarifies that this place is inside her. She is the 10th floor. Alti explains that since she is an ally, this floor is a safe zone. Deciding to rest, he declares their exploration will end here for today. He remembers the girls he just met were in dire need of MP. He observes her status. knowing that any further fighting is too dangerous. He pulls her aside, insisting she tell him her story in detail. His question about granting her wish catches her completely by surprise. She is thrilled, asking if he will finally cooperate with her now. A warm, pleased smile spreads across her face. She is truly delighted. He clarifies his true objective, observing the girl who has fallen in love. Alti explains her parasitic ability, which horrifies the listening Konami. She will simply watch over the girl until her love is fulfilled. He understands he must find the girl a partner, or Alti will never leave. He agrees to help her find someone, leaving Alti completely stunned. Alti is fine with it taking time, as he granted Tiada's wish. With a gentle, knowing smile, Lastiera says she is patient enough to wait for decades. Alti suggests Konami should go to Dia if he's concerned, but warns him to stop. Startled, Konami listens as Alti says she knows he doesn't mean for things to be this way. She leaps away, declaring her love for this cold flame and her intent to go play nearby. Konami wonders what to do, feeling he can at least talk to this fiery woman. Left alone on the stairs, he feels he understands her now, but is still unsure. A quick memory flashes. At least the guardian, Alti, was successfully dealt with. He sits dejectedly, relieved they found a path that didn't require a fight to the death. He thinks of Dia, who follows him around constantly, and how she must truly trust him. He clutches his head in guilt, knowing that despite her trust, he is not who she thinks. He recalls a vision of Alti in combat, a whirlwind of powerful, dark energy. A memory of her overwhelming destructive power flashes through his mind. Konami flinches, as if struck by the sheer force of the recollection. Lastiara's cryptic words echo in his thoughts. They are both human and monster. He acknowledges this truth, steeling himself and vowing not to be careless again. He remembers the victory, defeating a great monster while protecting his smiling friends. Walking down a dark path, he tells himself he is not done yet, that he is still okay. He continues his solitary journey, walking under the shade of a large, gnarled tree. He checks his inventory, taking stock of the magic stones and monster drops he has gathered. Stretching on a stone bridge, he decides to report his mission's success and then visit Dia. The constant stream of irregular events has left him exhausted. He admits he should rest. His path takes him past a makeshift grave marked by a massive broken sword. He finds a wooden sign with unreadable runes, wondering if it advertises a house for rent. His search leads him to a large, sanctuary-like building with a prominent bell tower. A close-up shows a complex, articulated metal prosthetic being fitted onto an arm. Dia sits patiently on a bed as a man and an old woman attach the new limb. The man finishes his work and begins to instruct Dia on how to use it. He tells her to try channeling her magical power directly through the prosthetic device. Dia's eyes blaze with power as she declares her wish for a new arm, vowing to grant it herself. Konami walks down a long hall carrying a basket, alerted by a sudden shout. The old doctor bursts in, scolding Dia for continuing to use her dangerous magic. A new arm, woven from pure light and shimmering energy, materializes around the metal frame. Konami stares in awe, recognizing the name of the miraculous healing spell, Cure Contact. Dia throws a powerful punch, testing the capabilities of her new prosthetic arm. The artisans watch, amazed she moves the limb so easily, crediting her magical abilities. An older craftsman warns her to avoid using magic while her deficiency is still visible. Dia cheekily dismisses his concerns, sticking her tongue out playfully at the old man. Her lighthearted mood shatters as she senses an intense presence watching from the door. Konami confronts her about using magic, his serious tone making her plead in fear. In a quiet room, Konami sits by her bed, diligently peeling a piece of fruit. Dia gently scolds him, saying a patient should act maturely and can do it herself. She teases that his stats are useless besides magic, causing him a moment of distress. Changing the subject, she asks if he ventured into the labyrinth, and he confirms it. With a bright, confident smile, she assumes his solo journey must have been easy. Konami looks away, a bead of sweat on his brow, unable to tell her the truth. He decides to hide his difficult encounter with Alti, not wanting to worry her. Instead, he winks and boasts that he reached the 10th floor and can go further. A relieved Dia says he's fine alone, but he thanks her for her concern. He then admits that he is much happier when she is by his side. A wave of guilt hits him. This deceptive kindness feels alien to his true self. Dia clenches her new fist, realizing she cannot become strong in the same way he is. She anxiously tells him to wait just 7 more days until she can leave. Her words spark a sudden realization for Konami about the date. He remembers that her discharge day coincides with the Holy Birth Festival. Dia explains it's a festival praising the heroes who founded the Labyrinth Conquest Union. Konami pauses, looking up thoughtfully at the mention of a festival. He turns back to her, suggesting they go celebrate together when she's discharged. Excited, Dia vows to recover quickly but warns him against any more magic practice. As he leaves, Dia waves goodbye from her window, shouting his name energetically. Konami finds a quiet spot on a rooftop, looking down at the city streets. He smiles watching her distant figure, realizing how nice it is to have a companion. His thoughts turn serious as he considers his solo journey for the coming week. For 7 days until her discharge, he must face the dangerous labyrinth alone. Standing in the city, he contemplates his solitary path and what he must do next. A small, fiery creature notes that selling Tiada's magic stone drove Alti away. Thanks to that sale, Konami is now a little wealthy, his inventory well-stocked. The old me is gone. Now my choices for action are truly without number. Having settled in, Konami is abruptly pulled along by an excited Dia to her house. Children run through a sunlit alley, one shouting that his mother is baking sweets. Konami walks alone down the same narrow street, observing the towering buildings around him. From a high window, a woman hanging laundry looks down at the solitary figure below. A rare, peaceful smile graces Konami's scarred face as he takes in the ordinary scene. He stands at the edge of town, looking out at a lone 2-story house. Dia stands before the house in awe, whispering and wondering if this is really it. The quaint and sturdy house sits peacefully in the countryside, a symbol of home. A cheerful landlady finalizes their contract, thanking them profusely for their business. She tells Sieg he can move in immediately, but he cautiously asks if she's sure. The landlady is shocked by the payment of 10 gold coins. Konami remains impassive. After the landlady waves goodbye, Konami is left alone to contemplate his new property. He steps into the quiet house, the heavy door closing behind him with a solid thud. His hand reaches out, grasping the ornate black iron latch of an interior door. He enters a room and, with a flick of his finger, magically ignites an oil lamp. He discovers the house has modern comforts, like a shower powered by magical mana lines. The home is revealed to be fully equipped with a variety of convenient magical appliances. Standing under the hot shower, Konami lets out a raw, emotional cry of relief. He throws his head back, reveling in the simple joy of a civilized life again. The camera pans across the wooden banister of the staircase in the silent, empty house. Utterly spent, Konami collapses backward onto a simple bed with a deep sigh of exhaustion. He reflects that while expensive, the house is a perfect fit for a modern person like him. He believes having a proper home will greatly improve the quality of their labyrinth explorations. As he falls asleep, he feels a strange power flowing into him, his expression troubled. The house is shown under a dark sky, the scene shifting into a somber dream. In his dream, his sister Hiyuki sits on his bed, gently trying to wake him. A close-up shows Hiyuki's hand on his hair as she softly calls out her brother's name. Still half asleep, he murmurs Hiyuki's name, asking for just a little more time to rest. His eyes suddenly snap wide open in the darkness with a jolt of alarm. He sits bolt upright in the real world, crying out his sister's name in a panic. Scrambling from the bed, he finds the sunlit room is completely empty. He catches his breath, panting from the shock of the painfully vivid dream. He sits on the bed's edge, head in his hands, wondering what he is even doing. His thoughts drift to Dia, who would be happy with just a roof over her head. He questions the purpose of this luxurious house, feeling it is just for his selfish mission. His thoughts are filled with an image of Dia's simple, contented perspective on life. A horse-drawn wagon rumbles past the house, its path visible in his dimensional senses. The covered wagon continues down the dirt road, kicking up dust as it moves away. Perched on a roof, Konami uses his magic to peer into the wagon, wondering about its cargo. His senses confirm his suspicion. Huddled human figures are being transported inside. He recognizes the sun-scorched people from his previous scans of the city's underbelly. Inside the wagon, a young girl quietly introduces herself to another captive as Maria. Konami's eyes narrow with grim certainty as he identifies the wagon's cargo as slaves. He thinks angrily of the wasted human potential that is lost due to slavery. He has a chilling realization. His display skill allows him to quantify human worth. He concludes that buying a person would be the most efficient use of his money. His pursuit leads him down a dark, narrow alleyway in a seedy part of the city. He arrives at his destination, a building where a person shivers outside the entrance. Looking up at the nondescript building, he confirms that this is the right place. He stands before a heavy wooden door, noting it's a different location than before. He's certain he's correct, having followed the wagon precisely with his dimension magic. Pushing the door open, his eyes widen in surprise at the scene within. Two well-dressed, stern-looking men turn their heads to stare at the intruder. He finds himself in an opulent hall filled with wealthy and dangerous-looking patrons. A hulking man in a fur coat and another in a top hat eye him suspiciously. Konami pulls up his scarf, steeling himself, knowing he is currently no match for them. The crowd of imposing men turns to face him, their collective gaze unnerving. The man in the top hat offers a sly smile as the scene ends on a cliffhanger. Konami's display skill shows a cat-girl slave, level 3, suffering from mental pollution. He analyzes another slave, a level 2 girl, whose status is simply irritated. His senses reveal a level 5 elf slave afflicted with memory loss and no skills. Konami watches the grim parade of broken people, his expression hidden but tense. An auctioneer presents the next lot, 3 slaves shackled and lined up for sale. Konami forces himself to be clinical, ignoring their faces to focus only on their stats. He assesses a fox girl, noting her high stats are useless without any skills. He analyzes a girl with an eye patch, seeing she has many skills but they are flawed. He observes a man whose stats and skills are completely average and unremarkable. The cold, detached analysis of human lives causes Konami to slump in his chair, disgusted. A buyer asks the auctioneer about the durability and lifespan of slave number 9. Konami's attention is sharply drawn to the slave girl being discussed by the patrons. The auctioneer explains the girl's beastman heritage gives her a long life, valuing her at 15 silver. A man smoking a cigarette casually asks if there are any other questions. He turns to Konami, who quietly replies no when asked if he has anything to say. Konami is horrified by his own thoughts, wondering if he's become like these slavers. He stands up abruptly, his chair scraping loudly against the polished floor. He resolves to leave, feeling his composure will shatter if he stays any longer. A voice stops him as the man in the top hat asks if his brother is leaving so soon. Konami throws a sharp, annoyed glance back at the mysterious, well-dressed man. The man smirks, mockingly asking if the raw display was too much for him to handle. Konami curtly dismisses the man's taunt, claiming he just feels unwell. Their conversation is cut short by a sudden scream, surprising them both. Konami looks towards the disturbance, a bead of sweat on his face as he asks who screamed. The eye patch girl struggles desperately, crying that she refuses to go with her new owner. The man in the top hat watches the chaotic scene with an air of detached amusement. The auctioneer apologizes for the display and has the terrified girl dragged away. A bald patron remarks on the girl's pathetic display and her new owner's bad taste. The man in the top hat merely smirks, commenting on how pitiful the situation is. He turns back to Konami, asking what he wants to say, admitting he's just teasing him. Konami turns away in disgust, noting the lack of decent people as the next lot is called. The auctioneer's mention of the land Fania makes Konami's eyes widen in shock. He slowly turns as the auctioneer continues, describing a girl with black hair and eyes. The new slave is presented, a small collared girl, the sole survivor of a war. The bidding starts low, with paltry offers of 10 and 12 silver being called out. In the darkness of the auction hall, bids for the young girl slowly increase. The man in the top hat smirks, asking Konami if he's taken an interest in this slave. Konami looks away, his face a mask of turmoil as he insists he isn't interested. On the stage, the young girl, Maria, stares out with completely empty, lifeless eyes. A close-up of Konami's eye reveals the storm of conflict raging within him. A nearby patron nonchalantly tells his companion to bid if he's interested in the slave market. The man in the top hat whispers to Konami that a life can be saved with enough money. A close-up reveals Konami's face, etched with scars and a grim, unwavering resolve. A man in a plumed hat tells Konami to raise his hand if he wants to bid. Konami looks toward the stage, his expression pained and deeply conflicted. The auctioneer Jaga presents 2 slave girls, Maria and another, to the assembled bidders. Konami looks down, unable to watch, his face a mask of quiet disgust. In the darkness, a hand is raised decisively to place a bid. Konami, his own hand now raised, declares that he will pay double the current price. The auctioneer beams, announcing the young man's magnificent bid has raised the stakes considerably. The plumed man asks if there are any other bidders, as Konami watches anxiously. He smirks, remarking how Konami is suddenly and unexpectedly raising the price. An older woman's hand shoots up from the crowd, preparing to make her own bid. She declares she will match his offer, bidding double for the one called Fable Q. The plumed man notes with a grin that things have gotten interesting. Konami realizes his error. Konami grimly thinks to himself that the girl Maria doesn't possess such high value. The plumed man leans close, whispering an offer to help Konami win the bid. Konami eyes him with deep suspicion, asking why a stranger would offer him help. The man smiles slyly, admitting his motive isn't kindness, but the prospect of fun. He asks Konami if he can truly afford this, probing to discover his financial limit. Sweating with stress, Konami reluctantly admits his absolute limit is 3 gold coins. The plumed man smirks with confidence, stating that 4 coins seems achievable. He tells a panicking Konami to trust him and simply wait for his move. He then loudly bids 2 gold and 10 silver, throwing the auction into confusion. Konami clutches his head, completely bewildered by the man's incomprehensible strategy. On the stage, Maria stands with lifeless eyes next to the ever-smirking Jaga. Maria's empty face is shown, with a ghostly, sorrowful image of Hiyuki superimposed over it. Konami is overcome with revulsion, doubling over as if physically ill. He feels utterly sickened by the whole affair, a dark aura swirling around him. The transaction is finalized at a counter while Konami stands by, grim and silent. In a dark corner, other slave children huddle together in hopeless despair. Jaga approaches, pulling Maria by a chain, sarcastically telling Big Brother he's kept him waiting. He presents Maria, explaining a minor issue led to the successful bid. Konami angrily reminds Jaga he said 3 gold coins, accusing him of starting this. Grabbing Yaga's collar, he insists he won't be cheated, though he admits he asked for it. Jaga, unfazed, calls Konami interesting and declares the new price is 4 gold coins. Konami reluctantly agrees. Jaga notes that Konami knew he was being played all along. Jaga flips open a locket, saying it's boring if he just gives up and wants to play more. Konami calls out his sick games, but Jaga asks if he didn't ultimately help him. Jaga slyly suggests that without his interference, Konami would have hesitated to bid. Konami is left speechless, stunned by the man's twisted and undeniable logic. A new voice interrupts, declaring that's enough and that he will take the girl. Maria instinctively grabs onto Konami's cloak, seeking his protection from the newcomer. The man tells her not to address him so familiarly, as he won't reciprocate. He tells Konami not to be hasty, insisting on proper introductions before proceeding. The man raises a gauntleted hand dramatically, preparing to announce himself. He declares himself Parenklon, a knight of North Fuzuyasu, striking a pose. He clenches his fist, his body language radiating immense power and confidence. A close-up shot focuses on his tightly clenched, armored fist. He continues his grand introduction, adding he is one of the celestial knights. Konami can only stare, his mouth agape in utter disbelief at the bizarre display. Parenklon smirks, asking if being a one-man army isn't a great role to have. Konami is visibly shocked, his mind struggling to process the knight's theatricality. He quickly moves in front of Maria, instinctively shielding her from Parenklon. His eyes widen in alarm as his unique skill reveals a startling truth. A status screen appears showing Parenklon as a powerful level 22 knight. Parenklon smiles, explaining he only came to have a look around today. He asks which slave Konami came for, assuming he must have his reasons. He boasts that he went to great lengths to follow Konami without being noticed. Konami is shocked, asking since when he was being followed, and more importantly, why. He demands to know why Parenklon was specifically tailing him through the city. Parenklon explains he heard of my master's beloved and came to see for himself. Konami stammers in disbelief, repeating the phrase "my master's beloved" with shock. Parenklon misinterprets his reaction, asking if he was after the slave named Franchirol. Konami denies it, lamenting that the daughter of Helvelshine has ended up here. Parenklon chuckles, finding Big Brother Konami to be an interesting person indeed. Konami insists he doesn't know who his master is and walks away with Maria. Parenklon waves it off, telling him not to worry since he was only observing. He bids a casual farewell to Big Brother as he watches them leave. Konami lets out a long, weary sigh, completely exhausted by the strange encounter. Jaga offhandedly mentions that the slave's collar is blank paper, meaning she is free. Konami gives Maria a quick, uncertain glance over his shoulder. He stands in the hallway with the small, silent girl he has just purchased. He leads her out into the dark streets, telling her to follow him. He stops and offers her a sandwich, simply telling her to eat. Maria silently holds the food, her expression as blank and empty as before. He asks if something is wrong, and she quietly replies that nothing is. She says this is different from what she was told, prompting him to ask what she means. She recounts being told she would regret being born a woman and curse the day. She continues, saying she was told she would be violated, toyed with, and broken. Konami looks away, pained and disturbed by the grim reality of her words. He tells her he can't offer her peace of mind, startling as he speaks. She looks up, her gaze questioning his use of the phrase, "for now." He confesses he was feeling lost and might just sell her again in the future. His face darkens as he thinks that, if things continue like this, he might have to. She turns to him, asking why he would buy her if that was his intention. He turns the question back on her, demanding to know why she was watching him. She explains it was simply because he had black eyes and hair, just like her. She adds with quiet sorrow that her village and family are now gone. Konami's expression softens with pity, and he tells her he is sorry for her loss. Maria looks up at him, her large dark eyes observing him with unnerving focus. She asks if his heart ached for the other slaves, not just for her. He admits that it hurt and he doesn't want to think about it, slumping in despair. He stands in profile, his face a mask of weary resignation and self-loathing. Maria tells him that may be so, but he should still be satisfied with himself. He apologizes, vowing he won't make the same mistake with other slaves again. She grabs his cloak, asking if his mind will change despite his arrogant words. She looks up with newfound confidence, stating her eyes for judging people are reliable. He scoffs at her confidence, saying he's never heard of a master eating with a slave. She lists his kind actions, pulling back her hand and giving her his own cloak. She concludes that because he pities the weak, she feels safe with him. Her eyes show a profound insight. He helps others to gain a sense of accomplishment. He finds himself unable to act cruelly towards someone so seemingly weak and kind. He wonders if she can see through his facade, noting her low level 3 status. Activating his skill, he sees her status screen, identifying her insightful evil eye. He considers his options, unable to leave her, but worried about appearing weak. She continues to eat, calmly challenging him to do whatever he intends to. He feels a sense of resignation, believing he is already too far in to back out. He complains about the trouble of it all as she explains her village's tragic destruction. She elaborates on her deep grudge against the city people who waged the war. He wishes she would just act afraid, as her defiance makes things more difficult. She proclaims a strange fondness for weak people, calling them the worst, which annoys him. He tries to end the conversation and leave, but she urgently calls out to him. Panicked, she asks why he isn't registering her collar to make her officially his. She explains that without a master's mark, she will surely be stolen by someone else. A sharp glint of understanding and resolve appears in Konami's eye. He stops, his memory jogged about the harsh reality of her situation as a slave. He draws his sword, grimly promising that his hand will not slip. Maria flinches back with a sharp gasp, expecting a fatal blow. In a single, fluid motion, his sword flashes past her neck in a blur. She watches in utter shock as the metal slave collar shatters before her eyes. The broken pieces of the heavy collar clatter uselessly against the stone ground. He stands with his back to her, repeating his promise, leaving Maria stunned. Maria thinks that while he can be reckless, she is unable to be. She follows him, remarking that there are limits to being a goody two-shoes. Her words strike a nerve, and he grimly repeats the label to himself. His mind flashes back to the many desperate people he was forced to abandon. He concludes that he is a coward, only capable of trusting the weak. Maria quietly admits that her earlier talk of seeking vengeance was just a lie. With tears in her eyes, she confesses she has nowhere to run and no one to help. She looks down, stating that this helplessness is the very reason she is a slave. He cruelly grinds the food into the dirt, saying half-hearted kindness changes nothing. He holds up a gloved hand, coldly acknowledging that he is aware of her plight. Waving his hand dismissively, he declares that her situation is not his problem. In that moment, a sudden, vivid memory flashes through his mind. The vision is of a small child's hand holding tightly onto an adult's. He understands she was brought here as a slave, her hope already extinguished. He has a stark realization. He and this helpless girl are the same. She looks up, her eyes wide and earnest, formally accepting him as her master. He looks back at her, his face a mask of weary but firm resolve. A storybook tale begins, showing a king pleading with a great ancient dragon. From the shadows of its lair, the powerful dragon poses a question. The dragon's challenge is a terrible one. It demands the king's own life. The king clenches his fist, resolutely replying that self-sacrifice is his purpose. A young blonde boy, Heiner, looks up from the scroll, pondering the ancient tale. Heiner praises his older brother, who was working diligently in the estate garden. The spiky-haired boy, Liner, pants from exertion, admitting he is no match. Heiner asks about the scroll, which Liner explains he simply found nearby. The grand manor where the boys live stands silently under a cloudy sky. In the garden, the two brothers are engaged in a spirited sparring match. The elder brother, Heiner, maintains a calm, focused expression during their duel. He effortlessly blocks a blow, asking his younger brother about his true motivation. Flustered, Liner explains his desire comes from gratitude and admiration for Heiner. Heiner cuts him off, demanding to know what purpose his knighthood would serve. The sharp, unexpected question leaves Liner utterly stunned and without an answer. With a single swift move, Heiner disarms his brother, ending the match. He offers a casual apology to his brother, admitting his question was mean. Noticing the time, Heiner turns to leave his brother alone in the garden. As a parting piece of advice, he tells his brother to think on it. Liner is left alone, his eyes filled with a new, burning determination. The profound question of what he is meant to protect echoes in his mind. The memory of the manor and the two brothers fades away into the present. Maria states bluntly that his plan is impossible and that she will certainly die. She argues that the labyrinth is a deadly place meant only for professionals. While eating, he gives her a simple ultimatum: work for her, keep her leave. He dismisses her concerns, insisting he can handle things on his own. Maria watches him with an expression of doubt and quiet concern. She points out his inability to even tell a magic tool from real magic. Flustered, Konami tries to stammer out an excuse for his obvious ignorance. A brief flashback shows him in a moment of deep emotional turmoil. He decides that despite his earlier threats, he needs Maria's help in the labyrinth. He also has his own new skills and strategies that he wants to test. He finds Maria in the house, telling her that her timing is perfect. His eye flashes with a sudden, intense idea for his new companion. Maria greets him as master, while casually using a sigil to light the fire. He bursts in, completely shocked, and demands to know if she can use magic. He wonders how he could possibly have overlooked such a vital skill on her status. She calmly presents a thin rod, explaining it is simply a magical tool. He tries to save face, smugly acting as if he knew it was a tool all along. Maria gives him a deadpan stare, clearly not believing his weak performance. He blames his confusion on being tired, knowing it's a flimsy excuse. His thoughts drift back to her strange and mysterious evil eye skill. Pondering her abilities, he decides to focus on the immediate need for breakfast. Maria explains that her only value to him is as an assistant in the dungeon. Her face is a mask of quiet distress as she states her limited usefulness. She worries her life will be short, assuming he is a naive, rich adventurer. Konami's gaze is steady, filled with a quiet and powerful determination. He makes a simple promise not to let her die, which startles her. A painful memory flashes of his former partner, Dia, being fatally wounded in battle. He adds another vow, promising that he will not even let her be injured. She can only stammer, completely taken aback by the intensity of his promise. He explains that he has a solid plan for the labyrinth, so she can relax. He breaks into a genuine smile, relieved that she understands and trusts him. He announces they're going shopping for supplies, and she readily agrees. Just as he turns to leave, she calls out to him, using the title Master. He stops and turns back, clearly flustered and unsure how to respond. He asks her to stop, saying it's embarrassing since she is no longer a slave. With a strange pride, she insists the title is a matter of basic etiquette. Her completely circular and stubborn logic leaves him utterly baffled. He can only stare, completely confused by her strange sense of pride. She smiles sweetly, assuring him that she is not trying to bother him. She declares that even without chains, her heart will always be his slave. A somber thought about Maria's future reflects in Konami's distant gaze. He questions the harsh logic his mind presented, a flicker of doubt appearing. A cynical thought suggests making her a slave, but he immediately rejects the notion. An overhead view of the city's rooftop sets the scene for their departure. With a tired expression, he begins to speak to the young girl, Maria. She stands at attention in full plate, assuring her master she heard him. Her armor was chosen for pure survival, a promise to protect her master. He observes her trembling, realizing her heavy armor is actually a huge liability. He decides to be cautious, planning to stay on the lower labyrinth floors. This situation, he decides, will be the perfect test for his new idea. He calls to Maria, who snaps to attention at the sound of nearby danger. Crouching down, he simply tells the heavily armored girl to get on his back. The bizarre request leaves the young knight utterly and completely baffled. She protests that she has never heard of such a strange dungeon-crawling method. He tells a blushing Maria it is simply easier for him to protect her this way. Hesitantly, she accepts his logic and begins to climb onto his back. He lifts her with ease as if her full suit of armor weighs nothing. She yelps in shock as he suddenly bolts forward with impossible speed. The world becomes a blur as they race through the city streets. Her heavy helmet is torn from her head by the incredible, rushing wind. They leave a trail of stunned onlookers and chaos in their powerful wake. In an instant, the dark city alleyways are replaced by open fields. The city is gone, replaced by the vast wilderness that surrounds it. She looks back in awe as Konami carries her across the open plains. A faint memory surfaces of her tribe's riders galloping across the plains. She recalls the feeling of riding the proud ram-like Arlauna of her homeland. A glimmer of wonder returns to her eyes, a long-lost, joyful feeling. Birds soar freely in the sky, mirroring the new feeling in her heart. A memory of her family and tribe appears, a peaceful, bygone era. A loved one presents a hunter's prize, a memory of pure happiness. Her joy is infectious, bringing a rare, soft smile to his face. She joyfully exclaims that his incredible speed feels just like riding an Arlauna. With a slight smile, he runs on, her joy lightening his own spirit. Konami warns Maria not to bite her tongue as they race through the labyrinth. They travel through the fourth floor, a dense and treacherous forest within the labyrinth. Elsewhere, the warrior Chris grits his teeth as his companion Frederica cries out his name. With grim determination, Chris begins to make a solemn vow to Frederica. She listens, understanding his condition. They must first survive and escape the labyrinth. He asks her to marry him, his expression filled with hope for their future. Her face lights up with joy and surprise at his heartfelt marriage proposal. She joyfully accepts, and a reinvigorated Chris roars, charging into the fray. He fearlessly confronts the colossal bear-like monster standing in their path to freedom. As other adventurers battle monsters, Konami and Maria streak past them in a blur. With Maria clinging to his back, Konami moves with impossible, breathtaking speed. They become a fleeting shadow, racing through the dense, pale woods of the dungeon. Arriving on the fifth floor, Maria is in awe of their incredible speed. The exertion hits him. His high stats don't prevent his very real physical fatigue. He dismisses Maria's concern, assuring her that he is perfectly fine despite his exhaustion. With a sharp click, he sheathes his sword, ready to press onward immediately. He tells the surprised Maria they can't afford to rest, dismissing his fatigue. Maria voices her fear, knowing this floor is dangerous even for seasoned adventurers. He confidently states he'll be fine, turning her own fear into a riddle. He assures her he would never have brought her if he couldn't guarantee her safety. Maria realizes with dawning horror that he intends for her to wait here alone. She panics, begging him not to abandon her in such a dangerous place. He calmly explains his detection skill, promising to return if she is in danger. She acknowledges his monstrous power but questions his smug, self-satisfied attitude. She worries he is the type to fail when it matters most, forcing a response. With a defeated sigh, Maria accepts her fate as Konami walks away. She resigns herself to being eaten, having already considered worse ways to die. Unsettled by her grim thoughts, Konami quickly makes his departure, promising to return. Maria watches him go, sarcastically telling him to go on and abandon her. From the canopy above, a winged monster silently dives toward the unsuspecting girl. Konami continues walking, seemingly oblivious to the immediate danger his companion is now in. His calm facade was a lie. His expression is one of intense, focused concentration. A blur of dark energy slashes through the air, intercepting the monster's attack. In a dark forest, a small, armored girl named Maria sits alone. Suddenly, a volley of sharp projectiles whistles menacingly through the trees around her. She scrambles to her feet, pulling her cloak tight as the unseen attack continues. With a grim and determined face, her gloved hand closes around her sword. The violence triggers a dark, fragmented memory from her traumatic past. She remembers her village burning as mounted raiders cut down the fleeing townsfolk. From within the chaos, a child's voice calls out for her older brother. Her brother turns to her, his finger pressed to his lips, urging silence. He tells her to hide while he searches for their mother and father. He makes her promise not to come out until everything has gone quiet. A close-up shows a terrified young Maria covering her mouth to stifle her sobs. Her brother's face is tense with fear and resolve as he leaves her. The memory flashes to the horrifying image of a body hanging from a tree. She then recalls huddling alone in the woods, weeping and calling her own name. Back in the present, Konami quietly approaches her from behind. He gently calls out her name, asking if it is indeed Maria. Her eyes snap open, wide and filled with a familiar, haunted emptiness. She looks up at him, a single tear tracing a path down her cheek. She dismisses his concern, quietly insisting that she is perfectly fine. Her composure shatters as she screams through tears that he was too slow. Konami, sweating, apologizes and admits that he is also quite scared right now. He confesses that he had misjudged her, thinking she was merely a child. With a new respect, he tells her that she is doing very well. Her status confirms she is level 1, but with a massive surplus of experience. She angrily demands to know if he will still make her wait for his plan. She tearfully asks what purpose she serves here, feeling useless and afraid. She admits she was on the verge of frenzy, just like in the beginning. Konami smiles kindly, acknowledging her past hardships and telling her not to worry. He reassures her that she is helping, though she tearfully doesn't understand how. The ground suddenly erupts as a massive armored claw smashes through the earth. Konami activates his dimension magic, sliding back on a gridded floor from the attack. He watches intently as the insect-like monster scurries up a thick tree. Leaping forward, Konami shatters the creature's limb with a single powerful strike. Sarah's monstrous limb strikes with overwhelming force, sending Konami tumbling helplessly through the air. Konami decides it's a waste of time to level Maria in the shallow floors. He had already experimented alone in the woods, discovering the system's secrets. He confirmed that as long as they are in a party, experience is shared equally. He also discovered the maximum possible distance for this experience-sharing effect to work. This allows him to level her up from a safe distance, across the labyrinth's border. If he can just raise her status quickly, the local monsters will be no threat. This method could even be used to train other explorers and conquer the labyrinth. But he decides against revealing his powerful strategy to an unknown number of people. He resolves that Maria will just have to endure his dangerous training a while longer. For Maria, left alone, the distant sounds of battle are an agonizing, terrifying ordeal. When he returns, she frantically tells him he should be running, not walking calmly. He realizes that despite his confidence in protecting her, she is completely exhausted. Seeing her state, he suggests that they should return to the surface for the day. He calls out her name when he realizes she has collapsed, unable to move. He looks on in surprise, not understanding why she is still on the ground. She stammers, clutching her trembling legs, unable to find the right words to explain. With tears in her eyes, she says her knees are laughing, preventing her from standing. He sighs, seeing it as a waste of time, and offers to carry her again. The offer triggers a painful memory of her former master's harsh and cruel commands. She stares in utter disbelief after being told she has already reached level 7. As Dia offers congratulations, Maria's new status is displayed, confirming her new level. Maria insists she did nothing to earn it, but Konami simply says it is a skill. He thinks to himself that this is precisely why he brought her to the labyrinth. Maria panics, exclaiming that it's strange to reach level 7 in a single day. Fearing she'll attract unwanted attention, Konami quickly grabs her and shushes her. Just then, his co-worker Rin appears, calling out his name, Sig-kun. She greets them cheerfully before noticing she is interrupting their lunchtime plans. Rin pauses, looking at the tense and awkward pair with a puzzled expression. She leans in, asking Konami what's wrong and if Maria is his lost sister. Maria begins to explain her relation to her master, before Konami quickly stops her. He explains that Maria is a war orphan who came to the labyrinth for food. Overcome with sympathy, Rin pulls Maria into a tight hug, offering her support. As Rin comforts the girl, Konami asks if she is heading out to do some shopping. From the tavern, a voice calls out, telling Sig to earn his own way. On the table sits a simple meal, a jug, and his sheathed sword. Sig advises Maria to never speak of her skills or level ups to others. He knows that if the authorities discovered his power, only disaster would follow. Maria apologizes to her master, but he gently tells her to stop. He explains she is no longer a slave, but stronger now than most adults. She quietly observes that his skill seems to be a complete rule breaker. With a grim look, Sig can only agree with her astute assessment. As she eats, her own keen eye is also judged to be a rule-breaking ability. He muses on how the party system could accelerate his level-ups exponentially. He concludes that his strange and immense power is nothing but a cheat. His display ability feels less like a gift and more like a prepared tool. The entire system feels as though it was designed by some unseen hand. Annoyed by a knock, he opens the door just as a figure darts away. His expression hardens as he recognizes the familiar face of his uninvited guest. A stylish girl in a beret leans in, offering a casual, "Yo, Sig." She smiles warmly, declaring that their unexpected meeting is a complete coincidence. From outside, a second familiar voice echoes the greeting and the sentiment. The cat girl Alti appears, also playfully insisting their meeting is pure chance. Konami remains silent, his expression showing he is completely unconvinced. He accuses Alti of using her powers to track him down, dismissing her claims. Alti sighs dramatically, calling him no fun for seeing right through her act. She admits to expanding her senses, but insists finding him here was true chance. With a sly smile, she declares their meeting is fate, and that is her business. Hearing his name, the first girl suddenly dashes down the hallway toward them. He flinches, instantly recognizing her overly formal and worshipful tone of voice. The girl, with elaborate drill-like hair, appears with eyes sparkling in adoration. She gushes with pure joy, ecstatic to be in the presence of Sig-sama. In her excited haste, she trips and pitches forward directly towards Konami. From the doorway, Alti watches the clumsy display with a look of shock. He realizes with a jolt that dodging will send her crashing into Maria. With a grimace of resolve, he abandons his escape and prepares to act. He catches the girl, spinning her into a graceful, impromptu ballroom dip. In a gesture of surprising grace, a gloved hand gently takes another. Sieg stands before the seated Fran, performing a courtly, gentlemanly greeting. Fran blushes furiously, utterly captivated by his unexpected chivalrous manner. Alti smirks, asking what he is trying to pull. Maria looks on, confused. Maria lets out a soft sound, a quiet observer to the strange interaction. Alti watches them with a curious, slightly surprised expression. Alti moves to sit beside Maria, wanting to be near the cute girl. Her gaze focuses intently on the small, quiet girl beside her. She places a hand on Maria's shoulder, who looks up with a question. Fran explains that Maria is their new companion for exploring the labyrinth. Alti introduces herself with a friendly wink and a warm greeting. Fran formally announces herself as the seventh daughter of the Helvelshine family. Maria offers a single deadpan syllable, completely unimpressed by the noble title. Alti expresses her disbelief that they ran to the fifth floor for Maria. Fran asks if it is a problem, but Sieg says he is just surprised. A memory strikes Sieg. Alti had already identified him as a dimension mage. He stands abruptly, demanding how she knew about his dimension magic. He slumps down, admitting it is fine, as he never used it before her. Alti muses that his fighting style is just like an old acquaintance. Sieg feels a strange sense of familiarity, as if he should know. He grows agitated, saying her vagueness is important as he remembers his past. He clutches his head in turmoil, wondering why he would reject himself. Alti tries to move on, but Sieg's hand slams down, taking control. He explains that dimension magic has the ability to shorten movement. He directs the question to a flustered Fran, calling her the Academy's top student. Fran thinks hard, trying to recall what she knows about dimension magic. She vaguely remembers it being a minor attribute, but seems uncertain. Fran passionately declares she will become a power Sieg can rely on. She wonders why it's so rare now, as Alti notes the generation gap. Sieg asks about Alti and Fran's relationship, but Alti refuses to say. Maria wonders if this generation is something dangerous she should fear. Alti sighs, offering to explain since Fran seems to be unaware. She raises her bandaged hand, ready to reveal dimension magic's true power. His bandaged hand presents the core of his power, the ability to understand space. Alti winks, forming a heart with her hands, explaining this means to manipulate and connect. She wildly explains that one can eventually create and even destroy space itself. Konami reflects on the terrifying power of a magic that can create and destroy. Alti suggests a magic called connection could help Maria escape her troubles. Konami expresses his doubt, questioning if such a thing is truly possible. With absolute confidence, Alti insists that it is indeed possible for him. She encourages him to visualize a door that connects one space to another. Alti frames Konami with her hands, suggesting they try to create connection magic. She believes that with Sieg's current level, he is certainly capable of it. Suddenly, Alti is pulled away, much to her comical surprise and confusion. Fran and Maria declare that creating new magic is impossible, a mere fairy tale. Konami is taken aback by their certainty, while Alti looks on slyly. Alti asks if it's true that magic can't be created in this era. Konami admits he just seems to learn skills automatically when he levels up. Alti cheekily suggests that magic is born from talent and inspiration. Fran hotly denies this, explaining that magic is not something you just create. She clarifies that magic is learned through study or inherited from one's family. To learn a spell, one must ingest a magic stone to memorize its formula. This is why the descendants of mages are sometimes born with magical abilities. Konami realizes this means Maria can't learn magic without drinking a magic stone. Alti notes this all assumes one has parents who used magic stones. Fran gets in Konami's face, insisting the magic they imagine doesn't exist. Alti mischievously pops up between them, asking if they are going to kiss. After the discussion, Fran thanks Konami for the meal at the tavern. Konami decides they should go and buy one of the necessary magic stones. Maria is surprised by his sudden decision, but agrees with a shy yes. A determined Fran volunteers to guide them to the best shop in town. Konami tells her she doesn't need to skip her academy duties for them. Alti watches them, reminding Fran that she doesn't have time for detours. Konami waves goodbye, telling them to enjoy their meal and take their time. Alti gives a casual farewell, saying she'll see Sieg again soon. Konami and Maria walk through the quiet, sunlit streets of the town. As they walk, Maria looks up at Konami, an exclamation mark by her head. She asks if he is really going to buy the stone, worried. Konami walks with a confident stride as Maria frets about the cost. He ponders for a moment, his hand on his chin, thinking it over. His interest was piqued by the conversation they had back at the tavern. Maria explains that even if he's just curious, the prices are very high. For students, it's a simple purchase, but for commoners, it's terrifyingly expensive. Konami smiles reassuringly, telling her not to worry as he has enough money. He mentions he still has about 7 gold coins left after paying Dia. He turns to Maria, suggesting they just go take a look for now. He wants her to learn magic if at all possible for her own sake. Maria is stunned, asking if he really means to teach magic to her. In the city of Fuzuyasu, a grand castle overlooks the sprawling landscape. A voice bellows in an office, reading a note about someone leaving for love. An official discovers the trashed room, wondering what on earth has happened. Hein confirms that Lady Lastiara left only a note before disappearing from her room. He clenches his fist, muttering that this is a colossal failure on his part. The acting Prime Minister, treacherous, fumes that the holy festival is approaching. He looks down at a blushing Hein, who is considering his own thoughts. The Prime Minister snaps at Hein, demanding to know what he is dawdling for. He orders Hein to bring Lastiara back at once, blaming her instructor's negligence. He sternly warns that word of this incident must not get out. From a high window, a voice announces that the princess has run away. 2 of Lastiara's retainers, Hopes and another, laugh about the princess's youthful antics. Hopes wonders if it's a laughing matter, but his companion finds it amusing. Another knight asks if they know who the fated person Lastiara left for is. Hein, leaning on his sword, says he wants to discuss the search for Lady Lastiara. He asks if Sarah is not with the group and introduces himself. Ragnar, a spiky-haired youth, complains that Hein is getting sidetracked from the topic. Hopes laughs boisterously, exclaiming that Sarah is just too amazing. The imposing, fully armored commander, Persia, remains silent and observant. The hooded Moan notes that Sarah is absent, and so is Palankron. Suddenly, a new voice announces that he is present. Palankron appears, saying he has found his person of destiny. One of the knights remarks that Palankron is back to his girlish hobbies. The group erupts into a chaotic argument, calling each other old men. Hein sighs, admitting he has a good idea who this fated person is. Persia slams his massive sword down, the impact shattering the stone floor. He declares that this matter will be handled under Hein's direct leadership. As commander, Persia explains he cannot leave Fuzuyasu during this critical time. Lastiara appears in a flashback, stating this year's holy festival is special. Persia's final command echoes. They must bring her back without fail. Back on the street, Maria looks up at the tall buildings in awe. She expresses her shock again, asking if he truly intends to teach her magic. Konami explains that he is having her explore the labyrinth, so it's an investment. His internal thoughts reveal he wants her to be capable of light combat. Maria clutches a pot, her status screen showing her poor magic aptitude. She argues that learning magic is not the answer to her problems. Konami asks if she doesn't think she would run away if she learned magic. She stammers that she probably wouldn't, as she has nowhere to run. Konami smiles softly, saying that in that case there is no problem. He continues, explaining that if she levels up, she can use magic. Maria asks what he would do if she really did run away. She wonders if she could sell his secrets for money and survive alone. Konami stops, pondering the grim possibility of her surviving on her own. He turns to her, deciding that if she could be independent, that's fine. He looks into her eyes, seeing a path for her to stand on her own. He asks her not to betray him, as he dislikes having his information leaked. Maria bows frantically, insisting she wouldn't do such a terrible thing. Konami laughs it off, joking that as his property, she'll obey him regardless. Maria looks down, dejected by his monstrous joke. He admits that he has a feeling she wouldn't do such a thing. Maria tells him he should say it with more confidence, thinking he's a handful. He smiles, saying he can't, as he doesn't know her that well yet. He believes a child like her wouldn't betray him, despite his naive logic. Maria repeats his word, naive, as he continues to look at her. He admits his reasoning is really naive and that he has no proof. Still, he feels it's a pity to judge people only by their stats. Konami asks if Maria is suitable, while the shopkeeper worries she's too young. The shopkeeper decides they must first test the girl's aptitude for magic. She presents a large crystal orb that can measure magical attributes and capacity. Konami coolly notes that one cannot simply learn any magic they desire. Maria, looking nervous, places her small hands on the smooth crystal ball. The shopkeeper encourages her to touch it, and she quietly agrees. As her hands make contact, Maria's eyes widen with a sudden jolt of surprise. She murmurs that the orb is glowing with color and feels pleasantly warm. The shopkeeper excitedly identifies a rare dual attribute of fire and non-elemental. She declares Maria a prodigy, possessing intermediate class power unheard of at her age. The shopkeeper asks if Konami knew, and he replies with a confident, "Of course." She enthusiastically explains the different reactions the orb has to various elements. Maria worries if her impressive big brother will be all right taking the test. The shopkeeper eagerly thrusts the crystal orb towards Konami for his turn. A bead of sweat forms as Konami's eye glints with a sudden, mischievous idea. He smiles to himself, thinking that this could prove to be quite interesting. His gloved hand reaches out, his fingers making contact with the crystal's surface. The orb remains perfectly still and clear, resting on its velvet cushion. The shopkeeper leans in, puzzled by the completely transparent, colorless reaction. Suddenly, a loud crack echoes as the orb appears to shatter into pieces. Maria lets out a gasp, her eyes wide with horror at the broken tool. The shopkeeper is thrown backward, yelling at him not to use so much force. She wonders how it cracked, and then looks again in utter bewilderment. The crystal orb is now perfectly intact, without a single crack on it. The shopkeeper's eyes narrow as she realizes what just happened. Konami tries and fails to suppress a snicker, having staged the entire event. He gives a small apologetic bow to the stunned onlookers. Maria hides her face in her book, trying to stifle her own laughter. The shopkeeper, unamused, angrily asks if he's done playing around now. He explains he was testing a reaction he'd only read about before. The shopkeeper identifies his rare and ancient attribute, dimension magic. Konami is satisfied just knowing his element and asks for magic stones. The shopkeeper eagerly dives into her stock to find a minor magic catalog. She presents the only two spells available, connection and form. She is amazed they even have them, and Konami decides to buy both. She questions his choice, since he doesn't even know his own magic capacity. Returning from the back, she asks Maria what spell she has decided on. Konami explains that all the practical, common fire spells are sold out. He mentions there was another spell that was similar to the ice attribute. He recalls that the crystal did show signs of an ice attribute for her. Maria excitedly points to the non-elemental attack spell, Impulse, in her book. Konami agrees to her choice and decides to buy an ice spell too. Maria is shocked at how casually he spends the money he risked his life for. He simply laughs, suggesting she could just save it if she wanted to. The word savings seems to make the young girl pause and think. He places his order for Maria's spells and the extra one he requested. The shopkeeper is confused, noting he can't learn the ice spell Little Snow. Konami brushes it off, calling it a simple indulgence of the wealthy. Maria watches in disbelief as he pays a queen's ransom without hesitation. The delighted shopkeeper offers to let them consume the magic stones right there. Konami agrees, relieved to have an expert present for their first time. She brings them glasses of water and the purchased magic stones in a box. Maria admires her stone, which has a beautiful glowing infinity symbol inside. Konami thinks it's a waste to simply drink something so finely crafted. He explains that some people have them made into accessories like holy rings. Holding his own plain stone, he feels a slight resistance to the idea. A glint in his eye reveals another mischievous idea is forming. As Maria sips her water, he nonchalantly drops his stone into his glass. Maria finishes her drink, letting out a small sigh of relief. Konami then picks up his glass, preparing to swallow the stone whole. Maria chokes in absolute horror, realizing what he's about to do. She and the shopkeeper are stunned as she tries to stop him. Ignoring her pleas, he tilts his head back and swallows the entire glass. Maria desperately begs him to calm down as he finishes the reckless act. The empty glass lands on the counter with a thud. The deed is done. The shopkeeper beams, congratulating him on now being able to use magic. He asks Maria how she feels, but she admits she doesn't know. Konami suggests they go outside to test their newfound magical abilities. They step out into a small, clear courtyard behind the shop. The shopkeeper guides Maria, telling her to visualize magic gathering in her hands. She reassures the girl that the magic formula is now part of her. The shopkeeper explains that the tool has inscribed the spell into her blood. Maria concentrates, feeling a warmth gather in her hands that grows hotter. She holds her hands out, the raw magical energy ready to be unleashed. With a final command from the shopkeeper, Maria is told to chant. She casts Firefly, creating a beautiful swarm of glowing, butterfly-like embers. She stares in awe at her own power, calling it a massive talent. Konami suggests trying Impulse next, but Maria is too happy. His status screen confirms he didn't learn the ice spell he drank. He decides to focus instead on the advanced dimension magic connection. Maria runs to Konami, excitedly exclaiming that she can now use magic. The shopkeeper watches them, completely misunderstanding their master-disciple bond. Konami holds up a hand, asking for a moment of silence to concentrate. He closes his eyes, focusing his mind on a single, powerful image. He pictures his one desire, the door that will lead him home. His eyes snap open, filled with the resolve to create that very door. With a powerful shout of connection, he unleashes his dimensional magic. Maria and the shopkeeper look on in awe as reality seems to warp. A massive black rectangular portal materializes out of thin air before them. Konami walks toward his creation, pushing against its dark, shimmering surface. He grunts with effort, but the strange, dimensional door refuses to budge. The shopkeeper marvels at seeing such rare magic from old books in person. Konami looks on, a slight blush of embarrassment on his cheeks. He admits that even though he created the portal, he cannot open it. The shopkeeper reads from her book, realizing the spell must be used as a pair. Maria looks at him with concern and asks him to create another one. He creates a second portal, a perfect twin to the first one. He reaches his gloved hand toward the first dark rectangular doorway. His hand emerges from the second portal, creating a stable two-way connection. A swirling vortex of ethereal energy now flows between the two gateways. Konami orders Maria to advance, but she nervously refuses, calling it scary. He sighs with weary exasperation, his patience clearly wearing thin. Maria yelps in terror as Konami instantly materializes beside her. He ponders how his inventory feels strangely similar to dimension magic. A dark thought crosses his mind. Does this magic prevent his return? Lastiara suddenly appears, congratulating him and proposing another small test. A title appears in the sky, announcing the mysterious new skill, Form. Lastiara playfully asks about bubbles, blowing them from her cupped hands. Maria stares at the shimmering, floating bubbles with childlike wonder. Lastiara's finger moves deliberately towards one of the spheres as Konami watches. As her finger touches it, a faint grid appears on the bubble's surface. He finds himself in a void, realizing these are not normal bubbles. He understands that touching the spheres imbues things with a dimensional attribute. Back in reality, he feigns ignorance when Lastiara asks if he understands. Smiling awkwardly, he claims the skill probably has no use for him. Though Lastiara is disappointed, Maria earnestly thanks her for the help. Maria has already grasped the skill, creating glowing butterflies from magic. Waving farewell, Konami and Maria part ways with the whimsical summoner. Maria follows behind Konami on the path, clutching a loaf of bread. She grips the bread with fierce determination, her knuckles turning white. Konami can't help but chuckle softly at her intensity. He smiles and suggests they have a friendly arm wrestling match using magic. Maria's eyes widen slightly, intrigued by his very strange proposal. He clarifies his true goal, to establish a connection in the labyrinth. Blushing slightly, Maria agrees to try his idea, just for a little. A memory surfaces of hands skillfully playing a game of cat's cradle. A child calls a hooded Maria clumsy, so she asks for the string. With a flick of her wrist, she whips the string with shocking force. The simple child's toy flies through the air like a deadly weapon. The determined profile of the young hooded girl is revealed. The child stares in awe at the powerful gust of wind she created. On the fourth floor, Konami opens a shimmering connection portal. The portal quickly vanishes. He explains the spell is very fragile. He notes that it is difficult to maintain where mana lines are strong. A sudden powerful tremor puts Konami on high alert. His dimensional sense reveals a massive beast charging directly at them. He urgently screams for Maria to get back as the monster closes in. He shoves her to safety just as a massive claw swipes past. Unafraid, Maria sprints alongside the enormous charging wolf beast. With breathtaking agility, she leaps directly onto the creature's back. She unleashes her powerful skill, Impulse, striking the beast's weak point. The concussive blow slams the enormous monster hard into the ground. A shimmering gridded barrier appears above, a sign of Konami's support. The massive wolf lies stunned on the dungeon floor, utterly defeated. Konami is amazed that she has already mastered the advanced technique. She explains her village hunting experience prepared her for agile foes. She insists that she isn't pushing herself, but he remains unconvinced. With newfound confidence, she declares that even scary monsters are nothing now. She then asks brightly if this is how slaves are meant to be used. Konami looks away in disgust, muttering that he hates that mindset. She calls him soft as she idly makes her sword float in the air. He suddenly grabs her head, yanking her back from an unseen danger. He points at a monster plant, scolding her for getting carried away. Maria is completely shocked, her mouth agape at her near-fatal mistake. He tells her she must work to be worth at least 4 gold coins. Chastened by his lecture, she looks down at the sword in her hands. She retorts that he is a liar who keeps changing his instructions. They arrive at their destination, the 10th floor's Chamber of Flame. The vast empty hall is eerily illuminated by pillars of eternal fire. Maria slumps in exhaustion as Konami notes this is their destination. He tells her to rest in a corner, but she seems hesitant to stop. She is utterly exhausted, steam rising from her as she pants heavily. He reassures her that this particular floor is safe and free of monsters. As she collapses, he notes how tired she is despite her level up. Her skills allow her to predict enemy attacks and land critical strikes. Alone in the fiery hall, Konami calls out for someone named Alti. He cups his hands around his mouth, shouting her name once more. A wisp of flame appears beside him, saying it hears him, startling him. The flame spirit casually explains that this entire floor is its home. It asks for a favor as its form grows into a large, dark shadow. Konami stands alone, surrounded by the immense, magical flames of the chamber. Maria, though resting, listens intently to the strange conversation. He turns his back on the flames, preparing to leave the area. A bead of sweat forms on his temple as a realization dawns on him. He states that it's impossible to maintain his connection in this room. Alti notes that its original magic is far too powerful to breach. Alti explains that this room is its life force. Stopping it means death. He realizes its true intentions are brutal, a chilling and grim thought. He deduces that the dreaded guardian, Tiata, must be on the 20th floor. The flame spirit thanks him for the valuable piece of information. Konami waves it off, saying that he will simply try again later. Alti's voice echoes, reminding him they are collaborators and can help each other. Maria approaches him from behind, calling out to her master. Startled, she asks if he met Alti, and he calmly confirms it. He explains to her that Alti is a powerful specialist in flame magic. He adds that Alti is also very knowledgeable about the labyrinth's secrets. She worries about his recklessness, but he just laughs it off gently. He decides it is best to leave for the day, and Maria agrees. Later that night in town, he apologizes for keeping her waiting. He holds out a heavy pouch of coins, calling her name softly. Maria looks down at the simple pouch, asking what it contains. He reveals a bag overflowing with coins, her reward for the day. She frantically protests, saying she is his property and needs no pay. He cuts her off, insisting he is the one who hates that thinking. He tells her with unwavering seriousness that he cannot treat her like a tool. She is completely shocked, exclaiming, "That is not how a master should behave." He suggests they take a break, and she finally understands and agrees. She playfully asks if he can spare 5 copper coins for a meal. He is aghast, yelling that the market rate is several silver coins. She quietly says that for her, even 10 copper coins is an impossible sum. His mind racing, Konami sets his absolute bottom line for the negotiation: 1 silver coin. Dia cheerfully counters with an offer of 11 copper coins, which Konami immediately dismisses. Arguing that they risk their lives, Dia ups her offer, but he firmly counters. Dia seems a bit flustered by his refusal, while Konami appears to enjoy their haggling. Finally, Dia concedes with a bright smile, suggesting they settle on 20 copper coins. A slight smirk plays on Konami's lips as he agrees, noting she's finally serious. A pouch of coins is shown, indicating that Maria has received her 50 copper pieces. Maria looks up at Konami, confused as to why he's working just for pocket money. Konami walks towards the tavern at night, sighing that his true goal is information gathering. He turns back to Dia with a smile, asking her to watch over the house for him. Standing in the doorway, Dia watches him go, raising a hand as if to stop him. He pauses on the path, turning back to ask her what is on her mind. Dia becomes flustered, stammering and unable to find the right words to say. Konami waits patiently, a silent question in his eyes as she struggles to speak. She finally beams, waving him off with a cheerful and heartfelt, "Have a safe trip." Inside, Konami walks along a balcony, thinking he's late and must gather intelligence. He pauses, contemplating the strategy he needs to formulate for conquering the labyrinth. His eyes widen as he takes in the boisterous scene unfolding below him. The tavern is packed with a lively, diverse crowd of adventurers, drinking and carousing. Konami looks lost in the crowd as 2 imposing adventurers turn their attention to him. A woman with wolf-like ears eyes him suspiciously, asking if he is Siegfried's visitor. An enigmatic hooded figure stands beside Chloe and Rin, their presence creating tension. Konami, startled by a woman's voice, hesitantly confirms that he is indeed Siegfried. The hooded figure speaks, declaring, "It's me," as they begin to remove their hood. The woman, now revealed, starts to say something more, but is abruptly cut off. A large knife is suddenly pressed against her throat, its blade gleaming menacingly. The nearby tavern patrons stare in wide-eyed shock at the sudden act of violence. Konami gasps, utterly surprised by the knife that appeared from seemingly nowhere. Clow leaps to his feet, angrily shouting and pointing at the unseen assailant. Konami's face is a mask of shock and confusion as chaos erupts around him. The hooded woman, Sarah, moves in a blur, her hand lashing out with blinding speed. In one fluid motion, she disarms the attacker and slams Konami against the wall. Pinning him effortlessly, she introduces herself as Sarah Radiant, a celestial knight. She tightens her grip on his collar, her expression one of grim determination. Baring her teeth in a furious snarl, she formally challenges him to a duel. The other adventurers murmur in surprise, taken aback by the knight's serious challenge. Blushing and confused, Konami stammers that he doesn't understand why they must fight. Sarah glares at him, enraged by what she perceives as his blatant audacity. She tells him to hold on, her voice shaking with barely contained fury. Her profile is cast in shadow, her unwavering resolve etched on her features. Chloe and Rin rush to intervene, berating Sarah for her shockingly rude behavior. Shoving Konami aside, Sarah declares this is a duel, not some peaceful spectacle. She stomps her foot, insisting her business is with Sieg, not his tavern friends. The adventurers of Walt gather behind Clow, warning the knight not to underestimate them. Konami watches helplessly, touched that his newfound friends are defending him so fiercely. The tavern owner, Rain, steps in, telling the increasingly aggressive crowd to calm down. He firmly reminds the knight from Fujiyazu that this is his establishment. Rain gestures to Konami, stating that Sieg is one of his valued employees. A large sunglass-wearing man beside Rain warns her against disrupting their business. Sarah stands her ground, caught between her mission and the tavern's unified defense. One of the patrons tells her she should apologize for causing such a disturbance. Sarah ignores him, shouting that she has a vital mission she must see through. Her eye glints with a fierce light, her sworn duty overriding all other concerns. She pins Konami to the wall again, declaring her mission is to rescue her lady from him. Konami's eyes widen in sheer disbelief at the completely unexpected accusation. The tavern regulars are baffled, one asking what on earth she is talking about. Ra'in, the owner, listens with a grim and increasingly annoyed expression. The tavern patrons burst into laughter, teasing Konami about seducing a noblewoman. Chloe remarks to Ryan that Sieg seems more of a man now than when he was level 1. Konami frantically denies the accusations, insisting it's all a terrible misunderstanding. Sarah grabs him again, snarling and demanding he stop pretending to be ignorant. She leans in very close, her intense gaze fixed on him as she notices something. He is trapped against her, completely flustered by her sudden intimate proximity. A deep blush covers his face as he asks why she's getting so close to him. In the darkness, her eye narrows as she accuses him of smelling of another woman. The tavern erupts as Sarah furiously accuses him of being a shameless, two-timing cad. Desperate, Konami tries to use his co-worker Rin as an alibi to clear his name. Rin thoughtfully considers this, acknowledging that Sieg is a boy of a certain age. She then remembers seeing him with 2 other girls, making the situation far worse. Rain declares he understands, while Sarah shakes Konami, demanding he explain himself. The owner tells Sieg his shift is over. He should go with the lady and sort it out. Chloe seems concerned, but Ryan insists it is Sieg's problem to deal with now. Outside, Chloe sees them off, grumbling that Sarah is a complete pain to deal with. Sarah smiles confidently, telling Siegfried visitor that he has a very good master. Konami musters a weak, tired smile, agreeing that it is a matter of course. Under the quiet night sky, he finally asks her to tell him what this is about. He wonders aloud if the lady she means is Fran, or maybe even his partner, Dia. Sarah explodes with rage, roaring at him to stop playing dumb and get serious. With a flash of anger, she finally reveals she is talking about Lady Lastiara. Konami is stunned for a moment before recalling Lastiara as that annoying person. Enraged by the insult, Sarah accuses him of seducing and then disrespecting her lady. He asks incredulously if she truly believes he seduced Lastiara, which she confirms. Sarah explains her lady vanished, leaving only a note behind for the 2 of them. She stammers with fury, trying to convey the depth of his supposed betrayal. Pointing an accusing finger, she yells that he took advantage of her lady and fled. Konami can only stare back, completely bewildered by her wild and baseless claims. Sarah passionately defends her kind and gentle lady, who spoke of him constantly. She recounts how Lastiara always talked about the man she had met in the labyrinth. Grabbing her head in anguish, she asks if he can imagine how she felt listening to it. She declares he could never understand and vows to beat him up when she finds him. Overwhelmed, Konami massages his head, pleading for them both to just calm down. He patiently explains he hasn't seen Lastiara and that she is likely just lying. Sarah furiously rejects his explanation, unable to believe her lady would be so thoughtless. A flashback shows Lastiara's manic grin as she destroys a room, contradicting Sarah's words. Sarah briefly questions her own image of Lastiara's thoughtfulness before dismissing her doubts. She turns away, stating that she had anticipated that he would feign ignorance. This, she declares with finality, is precisely why they must settle things with a duel. Konami is horrified as she explains he must defeat all 7 celestial knights to proceed. He slumps in despair, realizing that trying to reason with her is completely futile. Sarah looks on with cold resolve, convinced that words are useless against him now. Konami's eye narrows, a bead of sweat betraying his calm facade as he weighs his options. Facing the wolf-eared knight, he sighs and agrees to the duel she has demanded. If he loses, he promises to reveal everything and even help her find the missing Lastiara. Sarah grins predatorily, adding that if he kills her, it will count as his loss. He counters that victory is by surrender, and if he wins, she must leave him alone. She readily agrees, declaring she would do anything to get her beloved lady back. He notes her surprisingly straightforward nature, a simple devotion driving her actions. With a furious expression, she vows to correct him so he never gets such ideas again. Konami is left utterly bewildered and sweating at her intense, almost unhinged declaration. The duel is set to begin under the quiet, starry night sky of the city. Konami reflects that while being falsely accused is frustrating, this is a welcome opportunity. He draws his sword, seeing this as the perfect chance to test his strength. With a slight smile, he prepares for a serious duel where their lives are not on the line. His status screen reveals he is only level 10 with fairly average stats. In contrast, Sarah is a level 21 knight, her stats far exceeding his own. He believes his dimension magic will be enough to bridge the gap between them. He decides he must also test his new mysterious skill, Form. Sarah questions if he is using some kind of reinforcement magic to aid him. She activates her own enhancement skill, Gloss, dismissing any of his shallow tricks. He sees her power up, noting that her reinforcement magic is very easy to read. Facing each other, swords drawn, she tells him to come at her whenever he is ready. Then I won't hold back, she declares, lunging forward with blinding speed. Konami's blade meets hers in a shower of sparks, his parry perfectly timed. A close-up on his eye reveals his focus. He has a specific goal in mind. He dodges her flurry of attacks, making her wonder if magic is the key to his defense. She grits her teeth, thinking that even if his sword were to reach her, would only be enough to lightly graze her neck. With her tail now visible, she asks if he is ready to surrender. He is shocked by her speed but confirms his predictive form skill is working. The world becomes a wireframe grid as he perfectly tracks her blade's trajectory. She throws a small object in frustration as he continues to evade her strikes. Sarah looks on, her expression a mix of intrigue and growing annoyance. Konami is impressed, thinking of the skill required to aim for the neck so precisely. She realizes his skills combine to let him predict her moves like motion capture. He knows he must aim for her neck, intending to stop just short of killing her. He admires her honed skill, which feels so much more real than his own cheat powers. So cool, he thinks, as she asks why he has stopped attacking. He admits he is thinking, as she wonders if he has seen through her true power. She scoffs that all he did was annoy her lady, calling him a pathetic wet rag. Next I'm coming, she declares, taking the initiative once again. Her calm demeanor is shown splitting, revealing a darker, more feral side within. A bead of sweat forms on his brow as she closes the distance in an instant. He exclaims at her incredible speed as she unleashes a powerful strike. Though he blocks, he notes her speed is exactly what he predicted from her status. His form skill is perfectly suited for this, allowing him to track her movements with precision. He has seen enough. He has no more tricks he needs to reveal. Sarah grows frustrated, seeing countless openings yet failing to land a decisive blow. She realizes with dawning horror that he has seen through all of her attacks. His blade flashes past her guard, striking the ornate accessory near her ear. Her eye widens in absolute shock as the precious trinket shatters into pieces. The duel ends as Konami holds his blade perfectly still against her throat. "This is my win, isn't it?" he asks, seeking her surrender. Her hand rises to her ear as she whispers that it was a gift from her lady. The broken pieces clatter to the ground. She chokes out that it was precious. Her face twists into a feral snarl as she glares at him for destroying it. A wave of dark, violent energy erupts from her, throwing him backward. Konami can only stare in stunned disbelief at this sudden, shocking transformation. Now a monstrous wolf beast, she roars that she will bite him to death. From the darkness, two glowing, slitted eyes fix upon him with murderous intent.